Chapter 76. Chakra Scalpel. Kazama, I agree with what you said about the weaknesses of Nobuko's swordsmanship, but learning the chakra scalpel has nothing to do with swordsmanship. Or, there is no necessary connection between swordsmanship and chakra scalpel. Zhao Jian actually had some ideas in his mind, but he couldn't get to the point, so he just said them out loud. He might not be able to keep up with the brain of his disciple, let alone others. This also cleared up everyone's doubts. Who says there is no connection between swordsmanship and chakra scalpel? A knife can cut the enemy's body, and a chakra scalpel can do the same, and it is sharper. After all, surgery cannot be used to chop as hard as a long knife. Of course, there are other considerations. In addition to the aforementioned sharpness, which can increase the power of swordsmanship, Nobuko's longsword must also be changed. The current longsword is not suitable for Nobuko. We can tailor a longsword according to Nobuko's characteristics. Nobuko is a girl, fast and flexible, suitable for clever and flexible ways. With the sharpness of the chakra scalpel, she can become an alternative swordsmanship ninja. Exclusive longsword. Everyone else was confused and didn't understand what Feng Jian wanted to express. Feng Jian took out a piece of paper and began to draw on it. As Feng Jian drew, everyone became more confused. Isn't this just an ordinary double-edged sword? What's the difference? What if it's a soft sword? Feng Jian continued to sketch without raising his head. Just imagine, when the sword in your opponent's hand is like a long snake, winding and twisting, attacking from impossible places, it is clearly intended to pierce the chest, but suddenly turns and goes for the throat. It is clearly dodged by the tip of the sword, but it is found that the tip of the sword bypasses the defense and goes straight to the ribs. As Feng Jian described, a tricky, weird, fierce and vicious soft sword jumped into his mind. Everyone began to evaluate how to deal with this sword. It turned out that the only thing they could do was to stay away from this sword, because there was no practical way to defend against it, but they had to be on guard against the soft sword's sudden and tricky attacks. If this sword, combined with the sharpness of a chakra scalpel, can injure anyone who touches it and kill anyone who is hit, it would be perfect. Feng Jian touched his chin, very satisfied with his idea. The ninja world is not a martial arts novel, and there are not so many delicate descriptions of sword moves. It is very convincing to bring it here to make everyone feel like they are in the scene. Hiss, what a strange sword, what a hard sword to defend against. Tekuno was covered in cold sweat. He was frightened by the scene described by Kazama. As a strong man, he was most afraid of this kind of insidious and tricky method. He would rather face it head-on. The idea is very mature and has a high success rate. The only question now is whether Nobuko can learn the A-level medical ninjutsu, the chakra scalpel. Medical ninjutsu is known for its difficulty in getting started. The most basic palm technique is also a B-level learning difficulty. Everyone's eyes were focused on Nobuko again. This is indeed a big problem. If she can't learn the chakra scalpel, then the problem of the power of the sword technique is still unsolved. Did you misunderstand something? Chakra scalpel is indeed an A-level medical ninjutsu, but Nobuko is not a medical ninja. In other words, he does not need to use the chakra scalpel with the same high standards as a medical ninja. He only needs to exert the power of the chakra scalpel. Zhejian understood instantly and spread his hands, so that's how it is. When a medical ninja uses a chakra scalpel, they must be precise to avoid damaging other healthy tissues. Such precise control virtually increases the difficulty of use. Nobuko doesn't have these concerns and can use it recklessly. After all, his chakra scalpel is not for saving people, but for killing people. Zhejian's explanation made everyone understand. According to this idea, the difficulty of using a chakra scalpel will be much lower, and it should be easier to learn. The Sandame watched the discussion with a smile. Young people have active minds. The discussion, seemingly disorganized, actually solved the problem of a genin's future growth. Then what ninjutsu will Ichiro choose? You know, Ichiro is good at physical skills, and his earth escape technique is also very good. He doesn't have any shortcomings. Nobuko solved her own problem and talked more. Then she remembered that Ichiro, who had been standing silently beside her, had not chosen a ninjutsu yet. What do you think? Ichiro has no flaws? In my opinion, Ichiro's flaws are obvious, but his strengths have made us overlook them. What are the shortcomings? Zhao Jian was curious. Ichiro was the least troublesome and hard-working one in Team 6. If he continued to grow like this, he would definitely become a chunin, and there was a great hope for him to become a jonin. Here, Feng Jian pointed to his head. Everyone suddenly realized that, yes, Ichiro has always been silly, not to say that he is stupid, but he lacks some flexibility. Ichiro can definitely become a jonin, but his adaptability is a little lacking. As a teammate, he is very reliable, but to become a chunin or even a jonin, which involves commanding and leading a team, what should he do? As soon as Kazama asked the question, everyone began to scratch their heads. This was a more serious problem than Nobuko's problem, and there was almost no solution. Hey, look at you guys, Ichiro, don't mind it, I'm just using you to liven up the atmosphere, I don't mean to bully you, Ichiro, choose the earth sensing technique. Perception. Everyone said in unison. It was really unexpected that Kazama chose this. In the previous plan for Team 6, Ichiro had no intention of developing the perception technique. As you can see, Ichiro's response is not outstanding. So what if he senses the enemy in advance? Wouldn't Ichiro be able to react? It doesn't matter how far he can sense, as long as he can pay attention to the environment around him. Feng Jian explained, and everyone understood Feng Jian's idea. In other words, this perception technique is for Ichiro's own response. It doesn't require long-distance tracking of the enemy, as long as it can protect his own safety. Feng Jian really took great pains for Ichiro. If that's the case, I suggest you choose chakra sensing technique, which is a perception technique that most jonin have practiced, and uses sensing chakra as the main method. Although the earth sensing technique can be blessed by Ichiro's earth escape technique, the perception is relatively vague. But chakra sensing technique is different. As long as a living creature approaches, it will be sensed, and it is quite clear. The insufficient perception distance caused by insufficient perception talent is not a disadvantage for Ichiro. The third generation suggested with a smile. Damn, I forgot about this. Kazama understood that what the Sandai said made sense. Chakra sensing technique was indeed more suitable for Ichiro. After all, it was something that everyone could practice, and the threshold for practice was definitely not high, so it would be easier for Ichiro to learn. Thank you for your guidance, Mr. Sandai. I would like to thank you on behalf of Ichiro. Feng Jian quickly pulled the silly Ichiro to thank him. Ichiro still had a silly smile and took out a paper bag from his arms and handed it to the Sandai. The third generation opened it and saw that it was braised beef, and his smile became even wider. Feng Jian covered his face. Ichiro was big and consumed a lot. Every time he cooked, he had to prepare an extra portion for Ichiro as a snack to replenish at any time. This braised beef was. But Ichiro's gratitude was too real. The third generation needed your filial piety. The third generation didn't mind at all, and was even very happy. This was a tribute from the younger generation. What delicious beef, how could ordinary people eat it? As for the old faces of Danzo and the elders, if their subordinates didn't secretly curse them, they were considered to be well behaved. The only one who could receive the tribute from the younger generation was Sarutobi Hiruzen. Naturally, the others also saw Ichiro's actions and curled their lips in disdain, but the third generation's smile became brighter and brighter, so they couldn't say anything more. Chapter 77. Hard Training. In the following days, Team 6 returned to being the hard-working Team 6, except that the hard-working person became Kazama. Kazama had to refine his ninjutsu, archery, swordsmanship, perception and spiritualism, and was busy day and night, just to erase the possible death in the future. A good swimmer will drown in the water. Kazama is good at assassination, and he will definitely be targeted by assassins. The competition between assassins will only be more bizarre and cruel than the frontal battlefield. Kazama does not want to die unclearly. No, Kazama does not want to die. Living to the end is Kazama's dream. The current hard training is for the sake of freedom, Kazama comforted himself in this way. As for the other two members of Team 6, Kazama hated them, especially Ichiro. Such a hard-working person, now he plays with Kazama's 5 summoned beasts all day long. He eats Kazama's food and steals Kazama's pets. Kazama can't lose his temper because Ichiro is practicing chakra perception. How to practice? Hide and seek. Kazama's summoned beasts are ready-made training members, and the forest is the largest hide-and-seek venue. Each of Kazama's summoned beasts has awakened chakra and is very intelligent. It is equivalent to 5 ninjas accompanying Ichiro in practicing chakra sensing techniques at the same time. What an advanced configuration! If he still can't practice it, Kazama will beat someone up. Well, regardless of whether he can practice it or not, Kazama has already thought of beating someone up. Kazama is exhausted. He cooks for these uncles every day, and then watches them play happily while he works himself to death. The key is that he can't say it. Once he says it, Ichiro's honest face with an embarrassed expression stands in front of him, which really makes Kazama unable to get angry. In this way, Kazama can only swallow his pain. As for Nobuko, she can only be seen in the morning and evening when dinner is served. Lunch depends on the mood of this lady. The only thing that can comfort Kazama is that Nobuko looks weak and exhausted at dinner time every day. Medical ninjutsu is not that easy to learn. Even if you only learn chakra scalpel, you don't need to pay attention to medical knowledge and various medical records, but you still have to practice chakra control. You still have to learn how to use chakra. But Konoha Hospital really likes Nobuko. It's okay not to be a medical ninja, but your team won't get hurt and need treatment? They will get hurt and need treatment. Well, learn it. You are not required to be a serious medical ninja, but you must be able to handle basic first aid. As a result, the surgery department of Konoha Hospital has an extra Konoha genin. No, I really have no strength left, you know? I sutured 12 wounds today, cleaned 25 external wounds, and there was also an infected wound, the pus. Seeing Nobuko's expression of not moving even if she was beaten to death, Feng Jian silently put down the bowl and chopsticks in his hand, not because he sympathized with Nobuko, but because he was eating, and it was disgusting and would affect his appetite. Of course, there was also a strong man with a strong appetite. Ichiro and Wu Xiao sat side by side. A roasted lamb was torn into pieces in Ichiro's hands and became Wu Xiao's food. He took a bowl the size of a human head and ate it with the lamb soup made from lamb offal, and it was very delicious. Brother Kazama, Brother Ichiro, Sister Nobuko. A familiar voice came, wearing an orange jacket, ninja shoes, golden hair, and 3 symmetrical whiskers on his silly face. Well, the protagonist Naruto came uninvited. Hey, how come Uncle Naruto has time to come here today? You're about to graduate from the ninja school, so there's no special training. Kazama has been particularly irritable recently, and his tone has become sarcastic without him noticing. He's really a yin-yang person. In fact, Kazama is hinting that Naruto rarely comes here. As Naruto grew up, he gradually learned to take care of himself. The canteen in the treehouse was no longer necessary. As Kazama joined Team 6 and began to perform missions, the treehouse was often empty. Naruto also made friends, so the cold treehouse was no longer Naruto's first choice for playing. Naruto, long time no see. Nobuko ate her dinner slowly, her eyes narrowed, as if every bite of food was a source of happiness. Ichiro waved his hand as a greeting. Brother Ichiro, Sister Nobuko, Brother Kazama, I hope you can attend my graduation ceremony. Naruto finally said his purpose in a daze. In his heart, the treehouse is the warmest place besides his own hut, and the people in the treehouse are the closest people to him. That's why he made such an invitation. No problem, we will be there then. Feng Jian said without any hesitation. God will take care of this poor child. Even if God doesn't take care of him, I just extend a hand and who can say no? That's all. He handed Naruto a bowl of soup, his tone as calm as boiled water. Also, can you help me with some lessons? My clone technique is still not that good. Naruto touched his head and said embarrassedly. What he was worried about was whether he could pass the graduation exam. The 3-body technique was a required subject, and Naruto, who was not very good at the clone technique, really had no confidence. In his mind, Kazama, who always had ideas, would definitely help him solve the problem. Naruto's question stumped Kazama. In the previous life, there had been many discussions among Naruto fans about Naruto's poor clone jutsu. Most of them believed that Naruto's huge amount of chakra led to insufficient control. For a ninjutsu like the clone jutsu that required stable control of chakra, too much chakra would become Naruto's failure. Damn, it makes me angry just thinking about it. Others cry for chakra, but for Naruto, it becomes a failure. Hanging on the wall means hanging on the wall, there is no logic to it. To solve Naruto's problem, we can only try from 2 aspects. One is to strengthen chakra control. Naruto can learn to climb trees and walk on water, and learn the Raise Nan, which shows that Naruto's chakra is controllable, but compared to other people, it requires more effort. Another aspect is to reduce the chakra in Naruto's body, that is to say, consume a part of Naruto's body's chakra, making his body's chakra in a state of insufficient. Then, in the case of insufficient chakra, perhaps the problem of unstable chakra can be alleviated. Okay. Feng Jian agreed again. Since he had an idea, he should do it. Especially since he was in a bad mood recently, it would be good to have a last-minute job to help him find balance, so as not to accumulate too much resentment. Others ride horses while I ride a donkey, and there is a man carrying firewood following behind me. Kazama is the one riding the donkey, so he can find balance from Naruto, the man carrying firewood. Chapter 78. Naruto Special Training. Early in the morning, Kazama was woken up by Naruto. The sleepy Kazama felt like he had no desire to live. He was exhausted every day, and eating and sleeping were the only things that made him feel happy. But Naruto came and snatched it away. Kazama wanted to turn into a groundhog and yell at the sky and the earth. Without the slightest bit of energy, he walked outside the treehouse like a zombie, put his hands together, raised his index and middle fingers, crossed and bent the other fingers, gathered chakra under his feet, and then took one step up the tree. In 2 steps, he was already hanging in the air, with only his 2 feet firmly nailed to the trunk, his body and the trunk forming a strange right angle. That's it, let's practice. Kazama yawned, leaning lazily against the tree trunk. Naruto's face showed innocent stupidity, and his head was full of question marks. Do as I did just now. Once you learn this move, you will also be able to perform the clone technique. Explaining the principle to Naruto is like talking to a cow. It might be easier and more direct to just let him do it and experience it with his body. Naruto, squinting his eyes, hesitated for a full minute in front of the tree, then turned around and asked, "Is there any method to introduce?" Oh, Naruto has come to his senses? He knows how to ask for methods instead of just doing it blindly. It's rare. What do you think I was doing? Don't be in a hurry. Recall it bit by bit, and then copy the process I did. Ask questions if you have any. You have to learn to think for yourself. Kazama didn't plan to say too much. Preaching is only suitable for people who can listen. Naruto is the kind of person who listens half and ignores the other half, and forgets the half he has heard in the blink of an eye. He must suffer a little so that he can remember it clearly. Yoshi. Naruto rolled up his sleeves and recalled Kazama's actions in his mind. First, gather the chakra. No, gather it on the feet, and then step on the tree trunk. Naruto stepped on the tree trunk and pop. The tree trunk collapsed directly under his feet. No, there's too much chakra, reduce it a little. It's still not right. There's too little chakra. It's not sticky enough. Increase chakra by 1/10. Naruto muttered to himself, immersed in repeated chakra attempts. It's not that Naruto was completely ignorant over the years. At least this binary search method is quite useful. It's better than having no idea and experimenting randomly. With the guidance of the method, Naruto had tested the appropriate amount of chakra in just one meal. The next step was to gather it on his feet and move his body upwards. If you are not experienced at first, you don't have to rush up. When your whole body can hang on the tree trunk, it's not too late to move. You can avoid falling. Feng Jian reminded him, fearing that this reckless guy would rush up without thinking. Since he was teaching him, he could be tired, but he should avoid getting hurt if possible, even though he has the blood of the Uzumaki clan and his body recovers quickly. Feng Jian still didn't want Naruto to get hurt. An hour later, Naruto was able to stand on a tree trunk with his feet alone, but he couldn't last long because his chakra would become unstable if he lost concentration. There was no good way to solve this problem. He could only practice hard to make climbing a tree a basic chakra method that became instinctive, without the need for high concentration, and could be successful subconsciously. Keep practicing. When you can hang on a tree to eat without falling, you've succeeded. Kazama was very satisfied with the results of his teaching. He spent the time of a meal to test the amount of chakra needed to climb a tree, and he could stand in an hour. In the original work, it took Naruto several days. This is the power of knowledge. Feng Jian raised his head proudly. What follows is the process of Naruto constantly getting up and falling down. At this point there is no method to talk about. It takes time to hone this achievement and turn it into instinct. When the sunset glow filled the sky and lit up the western sky, Naruto was already able to hang upside down on the tree and make faces at Kazama. Come over tomorrow to continue the special training. After you master tomorrow's special training, you will definitely be able to pass the clone technique. Really? Is this all that matters? Naruto was overjoyed. even though I'm a genin, I'm more than capable of teaching you. Don't come so early tomorrow. Also, when you get here, light a fire and make some breakfast. Don't wait for me to serve you. Kazama turned and walked closer to the tree house, ignoring Naruto's face which was illuminated by the fire. I understand, brother Kazama. The next day, Kazama finally slept until he woke up naturally. In fact, he only slept for an extra hour. Although the ninja's work and rest schedule is irregular, he has maintained a super strong physique through long-term exercise and does not need too much sleep. More importantly, Kazama had a lot of resentment in the past 2 days and had no place to vent it, so he took the excuse of teaching Naruto to take a 2-day break. Brother Kazama, you're awake. Naruto has already given birth and has cooked rice porridge. Naruto lives alone, and with the influence of Kazama, cooking porridge is not a problem for him. Let's have breakfast first, and talk after that. Both of them were immersed in the happy and comfortable breakfast time. Today I'm going to teach you the art of walking on water, which is an advanced method of climbing a tree yesterday. Once you master this technique, your clone technique will definitely be able to pass the test. Yes, hehe, brother Kazama, I tried it secretly yesterday and I can now create 2 clones. Naruto smiled with squinted eyes. That's right. Isn't it great to see the progress? Are you eager to start training right away? That's right, brother Kazama, let's start training right away. Hey, don't be anxious. Remember what you should do the moment you see your prey. Remember, the moment you see your prey, you must stay calm and it is better to let go of the opportunity than to scare the prey. That's right, you can treat the water walking technique as your prey today. You have to conquer it, defeat it, or even eat it today. Feng Jian looked at Naruto thoughtfully as he put away his hot temper. He took a few deep breaths and regained his composure. It was rare. When he took Naruto hunting, he let go of so many prey that Naruto's noisy personality learned to restrain. This was an experience gained at the cost of hunger. A handful of bitter tears. If this wasn't the protagonist, Feng Jian would have slapped him in the face. Bring a large basin and fill it halfway with water. Follow the same steps as yesterday. If you can stand on the water for a long time without sinking to the bottom, it's considered a success. If you can perform ninjutsu while walking, sitting, or lying down, it's considered a mastery. Just like that, practice. Naruto did as he was told, continuing the familiar process from yesterday. The tree trunk was replaced by the water surface, and although the operation was the same, Naruto found that yesterday's experience was no longer valid. The difference between a tree trunk and the surface of the water is that one is hard, while the other is soft and flowing. Yesterday, you trained the stability of your chakra. Today, you need to maintain the stability of yesterday while continuously releasing chakra and using the tension of the water surface to keep yourself on the surface. It's still the same method as yesterday, but with one more feature. Try it slowly. Feng Jian's advice hit the nail on the head for Naruto's doubts. Although he still didn't quite understand, he had a general direction. Maintain the stability of yesterday while continuously releasing chakra? Stability? Continuity? The direction was clear. The next step was to test. It was still the same method as yesterday, a compromise method. Too much chakra would break the water surface, and too little chakra would sink the feet into the water. It still required a suitable amount of chakra. It still took more than an hour for Naruto to master the trick. Of course, the problem still existed. Standing on the water required full concentration without distraction. There was only one word for Feng Jian: practice. Naruto had been playing in the water all day and could barely walk on the water, not yet able to do it as he wished. Chapter 79. For Kazama, special training is just to give Naruto a direction and range. The most important thing is actually Naruto's own practice. Naruto is the kind of person with a bad brain. If you don't remind him, he may not be able to think of it in his lifetime. In other words, there are too few things in his mind, or too direct. After the direction is pointed out, Naruto's strong physique, rich chakra, and tenacious spirit can allow him to persist in high-intensity training for more than 24 hours a day for 12 hours, not including the time for eating, taking naps and sleeping at night. The key is that with such high-intensity training, he wakes up full of energy after a nap. It is really admirable. The blood of the Uzumaki clan can be said to be the most suitable physique for involution. In the original work, Naruto's grades were always at the bottom. Given his intelligence, it was normal for him to fail in theory, but the other grades might just be due to the lack of guidance and supervision from others. The amazing growth rate of Naruto later on also illustrates this point. Now that Naruto has made up for his shortcomings, passing the graduation exam shouldn't be a problem. But how will the story continue in the original story where Naruto failed the exam, was tricked into stealing the Book of Seals, and accidentally learned how to use multiple shadow clones, and was able to graduate? Without multiple shadow clones, Naruto's cheat would be gone. That would have a significant impact on Naruto's future growth. Thinking of this, Feng Jian felt a little pain. Looking at Naruto who was sweating and soaking wet, he couldn't bear to deceive him or reject him. Who is the first villain in the original work? Mizuki? A Konoha Chunin, a scumbag who was demoted to the ninja school because he killed his seriously injured companions during a mission. Maybe he can be used? No, Kazama immediately cut off this idea. It is absolutely impossible to hide the fact that Naruto came here for special training from the third generation. Since the third generation did not stop it and even said nothing until now, it means that the third generation recognized Kazama's guidance. In the original work, the fact that he allowed Naruto to steal the Book of Seals may just be a backdoor given to him because he saw that Naruto could not graduate. Now that Naruto can graduate, the third Hokage naturally doesn't need to do anything unnecessary. But Naruto's destined cheat was destroyed because of Kazama's special training? Thinking of this, Kazama's mood suddenly became unhappy. Kazama doesn't want to get involved in Naruto's growth trajectory. This may not be accurate. Perhaps it can be said that he is unwilling to participate in Naruto's original plot, because Naruto is the protagonist. What is the protagonist? It is the person who survives death and is undefeated in desperate situations. As the protagonist, in addition to his luck of turning disaster into blessing, he also has the attribute of being a troublemaker. Either he is looking for trouble, or trouble is looking for him. In short, there is no peace. And what kind of situations does Naruto encounter in the plot? From time to time, he is facing the situation of a jonin. This is only Naruto. If other supporting jonins go there, they may not be able to survive. Asuma, the son of the Hokage, couldn't stand the plot, but he was killed by a few middle and low ninjas the second time. Who can he complain to? This is the killing power of the main supporting role against the supporting role, not to mention the protagonist Naruto. Kazama is very clear about her own position. She can help Naruto and get closer to him when she can, but she will never participate in Naruto's plot. She doesn't want to be killed by the plot and become a sacrifice for the protagonist's growth. In Kazama's opinion, a little bit of special training on basic abilities is just to strengthen the foundation and will not affect Naruto's growth, so he didn't think too much when he agreed. Now he is halfway through teaching and it is difficult to stop. What should he do? Stop halfway? It's not appropriate. Whether it's logical or emotional, Naruto is close to him, so it's not appropriate to push him away like this. If he continues to teach, Naruto's cheat will probably be gone, which is a big sin. If it really doesn't work, teach him the shadow clone technique? Isn't this a bit suicidal? Naruto is under the third Hokage's nose. His status as the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki makes his importance to Konoha self-evident. If he teaches him ninjutsu rashly, it is likely to provoke the third Hokage's sensitive nerves. Kazama constantly weighed the pros and cons, and finally decided to go to the Hokage's office. He was still inclined to teach Naruto the shadow clone technique, even if it might arouse the third Hokage's suspicion. But seeing that Naruto's exclusive plug-in was not working and affecting his growth, Kazama felt that he seemed to have done something wrong. Third Hokage, Geninmaru Hojikaze requests a visit. Enter. Greetings to the third Hokage. A very standard procedure for meeting with senior leaders. Oh, Kazama, what's the matter? The third generation didn't even raise his head, staring at the documents on the table, making some comments from time to time. About Naruto. As soon as he said the beginning, the third generation raised his head, with an ambiguous look in his eyes. Naruto, what's the matter? He interrupted Kazama's statement. The aura of a ninja hero suddenly burst out, and the atmosphere suddenly became solemn. Kazama seemed to have entered deep water, and terrible pressure came from all directions, trying to crush Kazama. It's not that something happened to him, but Naruto is growing very fast, and I was wondering if I could teach him something new. Kazama turned a deaf ear to him. He was already prepared to detonate the third Hokage. The momentum alone was not enough to scare Kazama, but his face still showed discomfort. Oh, you mean about the special training you gave Naruto, and how he has made great progress. The third Hokage lit his pipe, restrained his aura, and took a slow puff. The third generation really knew it, so it was good, everything was laid out in front of everyone, just tell the truth. Suspicion often starts from concealment, yes, although Naruto is not very smart, he has good physical endurance and chakra, and his nerves are strong, so he can withstand high-intensity training. He has completed the tree climbing training and is almost able to tread water. With his current ability, he can practice ninjutsu. Kazama did not hide anything, and he told the whole story of Naruto's character. He took a deep puff of the pipe and exhaled a long stream of smoke. What do you think about Naruto's growth? I want to hear your truest thoughts. In the heart of the third Hokage, he didn't care about Kazama's own strength. What he wanted was Kazama's unique perspective and way of thinking. This was why he valued Kazama. As the strongest of the 5 major ninja villages, Konoha has never lacked geniuses, but what it lacks is people who can discover their talents. It was himself before, and later there was Jiraiya. He hopes that there will be another Kazama in the future. As for Naruto, his talent is not in his brain, but in his body. His strength, speed and endurance are all very good, and his chakra is almost on par with that of a veteran Chunin. In my opinion, he has enough talent in both ninjutsu and taijutsu. Unfortunately, his brain is too straightforward and direct, and he has been alone since he was a child, lacking common sense, which makes it difficult for him to grasp the right measure. He needs the professional guidance of an experienced teacher. What do you think of his teacher? This question made Feng Jian confused. Hokage, this is not something I can think of. I only know a few jonin, and I can count them on one hand. You have to decide. Kazama shrugged. In this kind of thing, you should never overstep your authority and tell your leader to do things. In fact, Kazama did not know most of the jonin in the village. Like Mariboshi Kasuke, Kazama was a solitary person who kept to himself and had very little interaction with other people in the village. Okay, I got it. I will arrange for Naruto to be taught ninjutsu. You can go down first. The third Hokage did not continue to pester him and directly ordered him to leave. Kazama walked out of the Hokage's office, and he looked visibly relieved. That's it. Chapter 80. Kakashi Class Gathering. After leaving the Hokage's office, several days later, Naruto still came to the treehouse to train every day, but Feng Jian found that Naruto's energy was not as good as before. It was obvious that he did not rest well, as if something delayed him at night. Thinking of what happened in the Hokage's office a few days ago, Feng Jian understood, but did not expose it. He just extended the lunch break by 1 hour, saying that it was too hot at noon and not suitable for training. Naruto did not doubt it at all and slept like a pig. The graduation exam of the ninja school finally came. Naruto, trembling with fear, resigned himself to his fate and walked into the examination room. When he came out, he was very proud. He had successfully passed the most difficult clone technique. After passing the exam, Naruto was quite arrogant and snorted at the classmates who were ready to laugh at him. Of course, today's surprise was not just this. When Naruto walked out of the ninja school with his classmates, the extremely arrogant Naruto instantly restrained himself. He envied this scene countless times, but as an orphan, he had no parents or relatives to pick him up. All he could do was hide aside, feeling envious, lost, and sad. Naruto, where the hell have you been? A rough voice sounded. The 3 members of Team 6 had been waiting for a long time, watching Naruto sneak away. Feng Jian felt inexplicably sad. He was obviously an orphan too, so why couldn't he bear to see such a scene? He despised himself in his heart and howled at the top of his voice. It immediately attracted the attention of everyone present, and Naruto, as the protagonist, was publicly executed under the gaze of everyone. Naruto's legs went weak instantly, he felt like he was being seen through by everyone's eyes, like he was running naked. Naruto was shaking all over, he felt like he had been tortured countless times by the eyes. Naruto, we're here to pick you up for a dinner party to celebrate your graduation from the ninja school. Nobuko could of course see Naruto's embarrassment and added with a grin. Naruto's face turned from dark to red, and finally turned into a silly but sunny smile. He touched the back of his head and said embarrassedly, "How can I let you treat me for graduation? I will treat you to ramen. Let me tell you, the most delicious ramen in Konoha is." The group walked out of the circle of students and parents as if no one was around. "Shikamaru, I'm hungry too, let's go too," the fat Koji suggested. "But," The reason why Shikamaru hesitated was that it seemed inappropriate for them to come uninvited. But what? Have you forgotten that father and the others told us to interact more with brother Kazama? Let's go. Ino didn't care about that and pulled her two companions to the party. You three go ahead. I will tell your parents. Fat Dingzo appeared behind the little pig Ludi at some point in time. He was smiling and looked very kind and festive. By the way, fat people always seem to look very festive. Kazama was really not interested in ramen, so he finally chose a yakitori restaurant. Naruto was a poor guy, and apart from daily expenses, he couldn't afford much money to treat him, so in the end, Kazama became the one who treated him. When he finished ordering, in the private room, not only Team 6 and Naruto, but also Ino, Shikacho and Kaiba were present. Kazama was left with only heartache. They were all grown boys, it looked like they would have to bleed a lot today. It doesn't take long for young people to get together, play, eat and drink. When their stomachs are full and it's dark, they all go their separate ways. On the third day, Team 6 received an unexpected invitation. Kakashi invited Team 6 to participate in Kakashi's first survival exercise. What the hell is Kakashi doing? He is leading students, why invite Team 6? Team 6 has already qualified Genin. Are they going to be opponents of Kakashi's team like Team Guy? No matter what, let's go and have a look first. When we arrived at the agreed training ground, Kakashi had already been waiting on the side, and not far away from Kakashi's class, the familiar Naruto, Haruno Sakura in a red cheongsam with pink hair, and the arrogant boy Uchiha Sasuke had already gathered at the training ground. It seemed that they had been waiting for quite some time. Teacher Kakashi, is there anything you want to talk to our Team 6 about? Nobuko spoke first. Kazama was still observing Kakashi's class and sighing in his heart. This is where the plot begins. I need you to help me secretly observe the next assessment and then make a fair evaluation. Kakashi narrowed his eyes and made his request. Why don't you observe it yourself, Mr. Kakashi? I think it would be easy for you to get their situation if you go there in person. Feng Jian spoke, not really understanding what Kakashi meant. Yeah, I do know them very well, but this is my first time to truly teach a class. All the previous students were actually sent back to school to retake the course. So I need some good suggestions and opinions, and this is exactly what you, Feng Jian, are good at. Kazama curled his lips. He didn't believe a word of Kakashi's explanation. For a Jonin, if he didn't want to tell the truth, it would be easy to find an excuse, especially for an old man like Kakashi. Kazama guessed that the third generation must have contributed to this. The reason was that no matter how good Kakashi's temper was, he would not allow a genin like Kazama to participate in the assessment of his subordinates, and in such an invitation. This showed that Kakashi put Kazama on an equal footing. No matter how smart Kazama was, he would never be appreciated by a jonin. Kakashi's indifferent attitude explained the problem. Naruto is my little brother, I am also curious about how they will behave. As for suggestions, I can't guarantee that I can give suggestions. I am still a genin. When the time comes, Kakashi-sensei will make his own decision. Feng Jian decisively lowered his status and put himself in the position of Naruto's elder brother, saying that he was just here to care about his little brother and refused to admit that he was here to be an advisor. Kakashi is a good person, there is no need to make the relationship awkward. Haha, don't underestimate yourself. Your ideas on the growth of ninjas are well known in the Hokage. I'm looking forward to your thoughts. Everyone carried the sedan chair. Kazama lowered his status and Kakashi also expressed his attitude. The atmosphere instantly became relaxed. After some communication, Kakashi entered the scene with the teleportation technique, which startled the three people in Kakashi's class who had not eaten breakfast and had been waiting for several hours in vain. Today's assessment began. Kazama and the other two watched from afar, seeing Naruto being subdued, knocked flying and falling into the river, seeing Sasuke using his terrifying fire release, seeing Haruno Sakura paddling the entire time, and finally the whole process being resolved by a simple illusion. The whole process was not that intense, and was slightly inferior to the teacher's test of class 6 in the morning, at least it was a back-and-forth battle. Here, it was completely a one-sided beating by Kakashi, without any difficulty at all. What do you think of Kakashi's team? Kazama asked his two companions. Naruto is too direct, Sasuke is too proud, and Haruno Sakura is too useless. The three of them have no coordination and will be defeated one by one. I'm afraid it will be difficult for them to get past Kakashi teacher. Nobuko's evaluation was very pertinent. Chapter 81. Evaluation. Hey, this evaluation is really simple and accurate. Feng Jian laughed and stopped talking. Since even Nobuko can see it clearly, there is no need for Team 6 to wait here bitterly. Instead, he changed the subject. Ichiro, you've been training with Kaibataru and the others these days. How's your chakra sensing skills going? Ichiro replied in a muffled voice, within 10 steps, I can sense chakra. A little further away, it's not so clear. This talent is really not that good. Fortunately, Ichiro is not required to become a perception ninja. His perception technique is just to make up for his blind spot in vision. If someone else had practiced the perception technique for so many days and could only see 10 steps, he would definitely give up. This person has no perception talent at all. Don't be surprised. Because of the long-term wars in the Naruto world, ninja training often pursues practicality. Once it is confirmed that there is really no talent in a certain aspect, then they will decisively give up. It is completely normal to learn a ninjutsu in more than 10 days. The learning here refers to the degree of being able to use it in battle. For Ichiro, after practicing the perception technique for more than 10 days, he can't see as far as his eyes, so he gave up long ago. Go on. By the way, you can also think about the summoning beasts. Since you want to make up for your shortcomings, you can do it together. When you practice perception in the forest, in addition to the 5 little ones, you can also focus on other beasts in the forest to see which ones have opened their wisdom or have chakra talents. Even if you don't need to find them, you can give them to Nobuko. If it doesn't work, you can give them to Naruto. There must be a lot of good things in such a big forest. The 5 little ones all came that way. Okay, I get it. Actually, I found some faint chakra on the rock wall on the east side. However, because the rock wall is hard, even with the help of earth escape, it would take a long time to dig, which is a waste of time. So I didn't continue. I'll go dig it up and have a look when I have time. Ichiro said carefully. Is it a spiritual beast? I'm not sure. There are very few summoned beasts that stay in the rock wall for a long time. But my perception tells me that there is a chakra reaction. Ichiro was not sure. He was just tired from chasing the 5 little ones, so he leaned against the cliff to rest. His perception was still being released, so he noticed the situation in the rock wall. Okay, after we finish here, let's go take a look. It would be best if we use a summoned beast. Ichiro, you have the perception skill, and your blind spots have been greatly improved. The next thing to solve is your resistance to illusions. If you have a summoned beast, it will not only be a fighting force, but it will also be much easier to fight against illusions. It is good. What about you, Nobuko? How's your groundhog? Since we're talking about psychic animals, Nobuko's groundhog is of course no exception. After signing the contract, I'm teaching him, but he's too timid and likes to dig holes. His chakra is okay, but he hasn't learned any ninjutsu. It seems he's of little use. It's not enough to just sign a contract to summon a beast, especially a small and weak beast like this. It must have a skill, otherwise it will be useless. How about wisdom? Compared with Kaibataru? Probably not as good as him. After all, he still can't speak and can only gesture. He's also a greedy person. That won't do. Once a summoned beast is contracted, it must fight. If you keep raising it like this, it will become useless. You must train it. Summon it out and give it to the 5 little ones. Let them get along with each other first. We can have special training sometime. Okay, no wonder the morning teacher is not interested in the summoned beasts. It's really because the summoned beasts are not strong enough to be of any use. Zenza complained. After spending so long with the groundhogs, the novelty wore off and she was speechless about the fact that the groundhogs were of no use to her. They still need to be taught. They can awaken wisdom and chakra, which makes them the top existences in the tribe. They have great potential. It's just that we are human after all and cannot understand them. Please be more patient. Feng Jian also felt that the 5 little ones should be trained. The previous training was just some simple tactical coordination. In the real battle, the 5 little ones did not have the opportunity to intervene. Firstly, they were too young and needed to grow. Secondly, Feng Jian's main energy was on the human side. He only asked them to help with reconnaissance. Now that reconnaissance is no longer a problem for them, it is time to put ninjutsu training on the agenda. Kakashi's class at the training ground also came to an end. Naruto was the unlucky one, tied to a tree stump and watched the other two eat. In fact, in terms of strength, Naruto is not inferior to Sasuke. In terms of physical skills, Naruto has been hanging out with Fukama since he was a child, so he has excellent physical strength, but he is a little disadvantaged in terms of moves. Fortunately, he is strong and can withstand the Uchiha style of physical skills, even if he is at a disadvantage in terms of skills. In terms of ninjutsu, it is hard to say who will win or lose when the shadow clone fights against the fire escape. The key is Naruto's reaction and response, which is a flaw. In the end, he was tied to the tree stump, which was entirely his own fault. Then, Kakashi let Naruto go. He actually approved the formation of a three-man team just because the other two gave their lunch boxes to Naruto. This is really a joke. If it were Kazama, he would rather send them back to the ninja school, train them for a while, and then let them come back, and he would not approve them so easily. Maybe Kakashi also saw Naruto's identity. As for the fact that Kakashi didn't know Naruto's identity, it is absolutely impossible. You guys are so relaxed, I wonder if you have gained anything from watching my lovely disciples perform for so long. Team 6 observed from a distance for a while, and then stopped observing Kakashi's team carefully, and even kept a distance to avoid being exposed. The carpet was laid out, food and tea were placed on the table, and the three of them were talking and laughing, just like a spring outing. Such a relaxed and nonchalant attitude made Kakashi look a little unhappy. Even if he looked down on my disciples, he should still have at least some respect for the task entrusted by the senior ninja after I personally requested it. Teacher Kakashi, don't be angry. We have been observing them for a long time. Even Nobuko can describe their three characteristics clearly, so we left. And we don't want to be discovered by them, right? Fengjian hurriedly tried to smooth things over, poured Kakashi a cup of tea, and invited Kakashi to sit down. Oh, Nobuko, you figured it out? It seems my lovely disciple isn't really in your eyes. Kakashi had a blank expression on his face. He was in a bad mood. The attitude of Team 6 towards him and Team Kakashi's team were not respectful. Yes, in my opinion, Kakashi's class is not qualified to be ninjas. Fengjian bluntly pointed it out. He didn't care about offending anyone here. Kakashi's character was trustworthy, and as long as what he said was reasonable and well-founded, there should be no grudge. I'd like to hear the details. Kakashi's dead fish eyes had disappeared. Even with the mask on, one could feel Kakashi's displeasure. Nobuko and Ichiro both sensed that something was wrong with the atmosphere. Let's start with your question. In my opinion, there are two problems. First, your test overemphasized Naruto and Sasuke and ignored the existence of Haruno Sakura. Indeed, Haruno Sakura may be the least impressive of the three, but as a member of Kakashi's class, how much do you know about Haruno Sakura? From beginning to end, I only saw Kakashi use an illusion to knock down Haruno Sakura. You are a jonin. Even if you are not proficient in illusion, your illusion is not comparable to that of a student who has just graduated from a ninja school. I wonder what you can see from this. Chapter 82. Secondly, they ignored the problems in the team. Naruto was reckless and naive, Sasuke was aloof and proud, and Haruno Sakura was love-minded. These three personalities and ways of doing things led to a lack of tacit cooperation. There is a saying that it is difficult to change a person's nature. Indeed, we can help them develop a tacit understanding through subsequent teaching, but at the very least, we should let them know their own problems and form a preliminary psychological recognition. From beginning to end, I didn't see any intention of cooperation from them. Third, which is the last part, since we want them to realize the importance of unity, why do we use the excuse of having a meal to pass them? This may remind them of the importance of teamwork, but it is obviously too trifling. There is obviously no cooperation, and the explanation of passing the test is too far-fetched. If it were me, I would send them back, and let them realize their shortcomings under the psychological torture of returning to the ninja school, and then pull them back. Do you know? Why was our Team 6 established in the first place? Was it just because Nobuko and Ichiro worked hard enough? No, it was also because of the character they had trained after being forgotten for a year. Teacher Kakashi, you are the teacher. I have no right to interfere in how you teach them, but as a teacher, you are really immature. You are only slightly better than the morning teacher. Kakashi's face was gloomy. Being accused by a genin in such a way, you are a jonin, don't you have to save face? But Kazama's last sentence made him feel better instantly. Compared with the morning, I am indeed a little better. If your Team 6 didn't have a bastard like you with a strange mind, would you be able to reach the current level? After calming down, Kakashi understood what Kazama wanted from a teacher. He was afraid that even the Jonin in Konoha could not meet his expectations. Thinking of this, he felt much better. It was his first time to be a teacher, so it was normal if he didn't do well. Hey, you're right. I do favor Naruto and Sasuke a little. They are very strong and completely overshadow Sakura. This is indeed my problem. After Kakashi figured it out, he immediately admitted his problem. Then let's talk about Naruto's problem. He is innocent, straightforward, enthusiastic, kind, and so on. He is a very good boy, but these are not enough to make him a good ninja. They may even become stumbling blocks on his road to becoming a ninja. As his friend, I would rather he be colder. His body and chakra are both top-notch, but God gave him a brain that is not good at thinking. What can we do about it? Kazama shook his head. Naruto is the kind of person who is very suitable to be a friend. He will never suppress others. Coupled with his sunny and cheerful personality, he should be very likable. It's a pity that the environment in Konoha is really corrupt. What about Naruto's strength? Although Kakashi rarely came into contact with Naruto, he paid a lot of attention to him. He inherited the carefree personality of his master's wife, and he did not receive proper guidance since childhood, which led to many problems. In fact, he really didn't know how to teach. This is not nonsense. Looking at the original book, Kakashi is pretty good to Naruto, but he didn't teach Naruto too many things. He's a ninja, he has plenty of chakra, and I've given him control. His only shortcoming now is that his brain isn't up to snuff in learning ninjutsu. There's no good way to fix this. Just give him a few ninjutsu and let him hone them over time. He has plenty of chakra anyway, so it doesn't matter if he practices a few more times. With the shadow clones, any ninjutsu in his hands will be exponentially more powerful, and the difficulty of learning will be exponentially reduced. This is also possible? It really suits Naruto. Kakashi understood instantly. Using the characteristics of the shadow clones to learn? The same principle applies. When fighting, if multiple shadow clones release ninjutsu together, what will happen? Naruto's biggest weakness is his brain. Sasuke's biggest weakness is his personality. He is aloof, arrogant, extreme, and even narrow-minded. He is a dangerous person. As for the others, both his brain and ninja talent are top-notch. Among the three, he has the highest talent. As for strength, he doesn't need to pursue strength now, but to improve his lower limit. He is too anxious, whether it is physical skills or ninjutsu. His current strength is actually limited by the limit of his own body. Only when his physical foundation is good, his strength will have a comprehensive growth. Instead of being like now, a kid wearing big shoes, seemingly playing all kinds of skills to the sky, but actually vulnerable. Haruno Sakura is actually the most mediocre of the three. Similarly, his performance is also the most disappointing. He is a ninja school student with no special features. That's how I evaluate him, just like Nobuko back then. No, he is not as good as Nobuko. Do you know why? Kazama asked. Kakashi's classic dead fish eyes. He doesn't have the desire to become stronger. This is a dead end. His talent is not as good as Naruto and Sasuke, and he doesn't have the heart of a strong person. When the time comes, he will definitely become the weakness of Kakashi's class. When the time comes, Teacher Kakashi, will you choose to give up on her, or let your other two disciples risk their lives to save her? Kazama shook his head. He was very disappointed with Sakura Haruno. She was able to catch up with Naruto and Sasuke in the later period, so her talent could not be said to be bad. It was a pity that she had not awakened yet. Sakura was so jealous in the early period, which was really unbearable to look at. Kazama's sharp question made Kakashi silent again. The configuration of Kakashi's class was so similar to Minato's class, a genius, a laggard, and a girl. The girl became the weakness of the class and the target of the enemy's attack, and finally watched the girl die in his own hands. Kakashi thought of the past and couldn't calm down. Kazama was right. If he had been stronger, or Lin had been stronger, maybe what happened later would not have happened. If Sensei Kakashi cannot awaken Haruno Sakura's strong heart, then my suggestion is that he should quit the team. Maybe there's nothing wrong with being an ordinary person. I think sensei knows the feeling of losing teammates. Kazama did not forget to stimulate Kakashi. Naruto, I have offended Kakashi again and again just for you. In order to prevent Haruno Sakura from becoming a burden to Kakashi's class, Kazama could only do this. Kakashi was lost in his memories, like a wooden man, and didn't notice the sixth team walking away. When he came to his senses, he was the only one left. He was not angry at the provocation in Kazama's words. On the contrary, Kazama's words would not remind him if he was not really close to him. What he wanted to think about now was how to solve the problem of three disciples with different personalities. But the person who could give him advice was gone. Kakashi looked up at the sky. It was blue and white, very peaceful. Rin and Obito seemed to appear in the sky, both looking at Kakashi with a smile. Don't worry, this time, I will never allow anyone to harm my team. Kakashi made up his mind. Chapter 83. Investigation. Ichiro, are you sure that's it? After saying goodbye to Kakashi, Team 6 did not go back, but went to investigate the source of the strange chakra that Ichiro mentioned. Konoha is surrounded by an endless forest, like a carpet, and it is difficult to see the undulations of the terrain. In fact, there are still some cliffs around Konoha, but they are surrounded by various plants and are not obvious. For example, the stone cliff in front of us is. The cliff in front of me was not high, only about 10 or 20 meters, and the vegetation covered it. Only on the particularly steep side did the hideous rocks show up. If you didn't look carefully, you couldn't see it. That's it. Ichiro stepped forward and placed his hand on the rock, closing his eyes and performing the chakra sensing technique. The chakra fluctuations that seemed to be there and not there, almost beyond the sensing distance, were still there. The feeling is still there. Ichiro opened his eyes and said affirmatively. I'll try. Feng Jian stepped forward and used the earth escape. Ground touching technique. Feng Jian's improved earth escape perception technique was activated. The ground touching technique could not sense chakra, but the vibration transmitted through the rocks and soil. Feng Jian clearly sensed that there was a sound coming from inside the cliff, very subtle, like the sound of metal scraping against stone. There is a living creature. Feng Jian was very sure that only a living creature could make such illogical sounds. If the sound was caused by a mountain spring or something, it must be cyclical and repetitive. Ichiro was stunned for a moment, then looked at Kazama with surprise, and got a positive answer from Kazama. Dig it up and have a look. You can find it in such a hidden place. What is it? It is monkey shit. Here, dig hard. Feng Jian took out the sealing scroll, found a shovel and handed it to Ichiro. These tools were deliberately prepared in order to complete the D-level mission. Now think about it, it seems like a long time has passed even though only a year has passed. Nobuko, go hunt some prey. We may have to fight for a long time today. Kazama looked at the cliff, then looked at Ichiro who was standing in front of the cliff and was not worth mentioning, and said so. Okay, leave the logistics to me. Nobuko replied and jumped onto the treetop to go hunting. Looking at Ichiro who was working hard, he said, oh, and had no choice but to join the stone digging team. Ichiro was strong, and with the support of his earth escape chakra, the stone was not a difficult thing for him to deal with. He softened it with chakra first, and then dug it out with a shovel. It was an alternative earth escape training. Kazama was even simpler and more brutal, using wind escape and earth escape in turn. As long as the chakra was sufficient, a stone cliff was really nothing, as long as they were given time. Soon, no matter how hard the rock was, it could not withstand two people digging like this. A cave large enough for 3 people standing side by side appeared before their eyes. Unfortunately, the digging duo did not gain much, except that their chakra perception became clearer. No need to say, they continued digging. It was not until the next day, when the cave turned and went straight down into the ground, that the two finally found the answers they were looking for. Just this thing, it made us fight for a whole night. Feng Jian's mentality was a little broken. What is this thing? It's black, rolled up, and covered with scales. It feels very hard to touch. With such a good defense, when it met Ichiro and Feng Jian, its first reaction was to play dead. Do you really want to? Ichiro didn't dislike it. He held it in his hands and looked at it again and again. What kind of beast is this? I've never seen one before. Zenzi asked. Pangolin is one of the best beasts at digging holes. But this one is a little different. It's not just about awakening chakra. What do you think about us roasting it and eating it? Beasts with awakened chakra taste even more delicious. Kazama raised his voice, salivating over the delicious food. That's fine. We haven't gone hunting today anyway, so we don't need to waste energy. Zinz's eyes were full of amusement. Here it comes again, here it comes again. Sure enough, the ball in Ichiro's hand was shaking slightly, with half-open eyes, looking around cautiously, preparing to escape unexpectedly. Okay, give it to me, I'll kill him. Kazama stretched out his hand, and the ball in Ichiro's hand immediately flashed past Kazama's hand at lightning speed, and ran to the top of Ichiro's head, looking down at Kazama vigilantly. You're not going to pretend anymore, are you going to run away? Feng Jian asked with a smile. The pangolin blinked its eyes in a human-like manner, then started pointing and swearing at Feng Jian. Even though it didn't understand the animal language, it knew that the words it used were extremely harsh. Ichiro said nothing, but held the pangolin in his hands again, with indescribable love in his eyes. This is a perfect match, Feng Jian sighed, this pangolin can't run away, Feng Jian said so. Don't curse. I don't understand. It's a waste of energy. But since you are in our hands, we will give you two choices. First, let us skin you and eat your flesh. Don't worry, I am a professional at skinning and bleeding. It won't hurt at all. The pangolin became even more agitated, jumping up and down in Ichiro's hands. Unfortunately, Ichiro was too strong for it to resist, and it became a struggling little beast. Second, sign a contract with me and become my summoned beast. I will take care of your life from now on. I will also teach you to become stronger. Of course, you have to protect me. How about it? When the second condition came out, the pangolin was quiet for a moment, with a trace of thought flashing in its eyes. Then it resumed its struggle. I told you, don't pretend in front of me. I know you can understand. If you can't, I'll find you a translator. Spiritual summons. Kai Batter. Kai Batter held a nut in one hand and was about to eat it when he was summoned by Kazama. He was stunned for a moment and scratched Kazama's head until he got nowhere. Then he asked with a gloomy face, what do you want from me? Can you please not call me when I'm having breakfast? Don't you know that not being able to eat on time is very annoying? I want you to be my interpreter. He pointed to the pangolin Ichiro was holding. Kai Batter looked in the direction he was looking and said, oh, are there new brothers joining us? No problem, I will definitely be a good translator. Kai Batter promised, patting his chest. Brother, what's your name? I'll tell you. If you join. I don't know who Kai Batter learned this from, but why does he still have an accent? Forget it, I'll wait for him to communicate. You are wrong to think so. If you join us, you don't have to worry about survival. Liuli, the pangolin continued to dance. You don't agree? You. The Liuli pangolin became even more manic. I've said both good and bad things. Think about it yourself. Yo-yo. An hour later, Kai Batter looked at the pangolin speechlessly, not wanting to die but also refusing to surrender. How could there be such a stubborn pangolin? Had its brain become hard from eating rocks? Could it not move anymore? State your conditions and I'll convey them to you. But you have to understand that if you want to survive, you have no choice but to join us. Kai Battero issued an ultimatum. Flow, 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 flow. The pangolin was very cunning. He had persisted for so long just to negotiate terms. Have you agreed? Conditions? Just tell me. Kai Batter jumped up immediately. What a sudden turn of events. There is still room for negotiation on this deal. You want to sign a contract with Ichiro? Kai Battero glanced at Kazama. Sure, there are 3 of us here, you can choose anyone. You also want to provide food and accommodation? No problem, I can agree to that. I want to help you find all kinds of delicious minerals. Did I hear you right? Stones can be eaten? Okay, let me ask. Kai Batter relayed the pangolin's words. No problem. Before Kazama could state the conditions, Ichiro patted his chest and agreed. And we can't force you to fight. I can't summon you by force. Cannot. Feng Jian couldn't stand it any longer, so he pulled out his short knife and started sharpening it on a stone nearby, the kind that made sparks fly. However, his eyes were fixed on the pangolin, and the meaning was self-evident. Chapter 84. Magnetite. The pangolin's entire body froze, and then its scales exploded, and then recovered, and it quickly returned to Ichiro's shoulder, giving up on further negotiations. Except for the first three, the other conditions are invalid. If you agree, just nod your head. If you don't agree, I will skin you alive and tear your bones apart. Feng Jian slowly touched the blade to test its sharpness, then chopped it on the tree trunk next to him, and the entire blade sank into the trunk. It just so happens that the knife is sharpened now. Liuli the pangolin screamed and nodded repeatedly. The blood contract was signed on the spiritual scroll that Feng Jian took out. Then it returned to Ichiro's shoulder again. In his mind, this man with a knife was too scary. He wanted to peel off his skin and bones at any time. He couldn't play with his life like this. In contrast, the big fool under his feet, although he didn't look very smart, had good intentions for him. He had no choice but to be much better than the man with a knife. Let's go. You're tired after a whole night. Go back and have some rest. You didn't ask for leave today. Nobuko, did you forget to go to the hospital? People like Kazama are the most annoying. It's obviously a happy thing for Ichiro to find the summoning beast, but suddenly he pours a bucket of cold water on him, and it's directed at Nobuko alone. Ichiro and Kazama can rest, but she has to work hard. It seems unbalanced no matter how she thinks about it. But I have to go. I want to learn the chakra scalpel, so I have to go to the hospital. I have made some progress, so I can't give up. Pointing at Kazama, I expressed my dissatisfaction with Kazama's demolition, and went to work with a face full of resentment. Swirl, SWRL. The pangolin jumped off Ichiro's shoulder and ran into the dug cave. Soon, a stone the size of an egg rolled out, and it asked Ichiro to go in with it. What does he mean? There are treasures he has accumulated in the cave, and he just asked Ichiro for help to take them out. Kaibataro replied. Oh. I picked up the stone and looked at it. It was quite heavy. I weighed it and found that it was not an ordinary stone. I took out a kunao and tried it. Sure enough, it was magnetic. It was a magnetite. Could it be that there was a magnetite under this cliff? Feng Jian's eyes were filled with turmoil as he thought about the benefits this discovery would bring to him. In the end, he realized that it was useless except for handing it over in exchange for some resources. As for mining it himself, forget it. How much could the three people in Team 6 mine? Moreover, this place was almost under the nose of Konoha village, so it was impossible to keep it secret. As for handing it over to other ninja clans, haha, what a joke. It would be better to hand it over directly to the third generation. At least it won't be eaten alive, and it can be exchanged for something. The third generation at least has some dignity. Most importantly, if it is handed over to the third generation, no one can say anything. This is the most basic political correctness, and it can also win the favor of the third generation. With the help of Ichiro's earth escape technique, the pangolin quickly took out his treasure, which was a pile of ore. Judging from the color, in addition to magnetite, there should be hematite, but he couldn't recognize the others. Next, Kazama kept weighing the pros and cons. The magnetite matter could be a big deal or a small one, and it was Ichiro who discovered it. How to maximize the benefits became the most important thing at the moment. They had dug such a large cave that the magnetite was almost exposed before their eyes, so a decision had to be made as soon as possible. In the afternoon, Zinza came to the treehouse tiredly to gather and have a free meal. Feng Jian expressed his guess, intending to seek the opinions of his two teammates. What? Magnetite? What's it good for? Magnetite is a type of iron ore that can be used to make iron. What can iron be used for? I don't need to tell you. That's Kotaro's dining room. Ichiro rarely expressed his opinion. In his opinion, that place belonged to the pangolin. Oh, it's now called Kotaro. Iran couldn't think of a better name, so he simply borrowed the idea of Kazama's summoning beast. Kotaro? This is a good name. What Kotaro can't defend, even we can't defend it, so it is inevitable to hand it over. What I mean is, hand it over and get something in return. Kazama explained. Hand it over to Lord Hokage? That's acceptable. Nobuko also reacted. Ichiro nodded, but... and looked at Kotaro who was wrestling with Kaibataro. Don't worry, Kotaro is only a little old, he can eat and use as much as he wants. We can spend some money to buy a lot of it, and we don't have to mine it ourselves, which is even better. That's good. Ichiro was relieved. What he was worried about was that if the magnetite was handed over, the pangolins would have nothing to eat. Now that the problem could be solved, it would be the best of both worlds. Back to the question just now, hand over the magnetite and we will get some resources in return. Nobuko fell into deep thought. Ichiro remained silent as always. Forget it, let's go talk to the old man and the morning teacher. Harvested 2 nodding bugs. The old man and Bai Yunzeo, who were captured as advisors, were also stunned. They didn't expect to get such a reward from catching a psychic beast. First of all, I don't recommend you to change your ninjutsu. The reason is that your current ninjutsu is enough. Even if it is not enough, you still have me and the old man to help you replace it. Don't waste this opportunity. The old man nodded and agreed with the teacher's point of view in the morning. My idea is to exchange for ninjutsu, but not ordinary ninjutsu. Kazama laughed. He thought of a wonderful ninjutsu. What ninjutsu can match a strategic resource like iron ore? I heard that Lord Jiraiya once developed a hair ninjutsu. We naturally don't need this kind of ninjutsu, but what about them? Kazama pointed at the 7 summoned beasts that were in a mess. This ninjutsu is both offensive and defensive, and can be used at long range or close range. It can almost be said to be the most suitable ninjutsu for them, bar none. What do you think? Hiss, that's true. Hair ninjutsu is a bit useless for ninjas, after all, they need to grow long hair. But if a summoned beast uses it, there is nothing wrong with it. But this jutsu is not worth a strategic resource, the old man reminded. Of course it's not that simple. Nobuko's soft sword is still waiting to be made. We can ask for a little chakra metal. And Ichiro, although his earth escape technique is pretty good, it's still a little lacking in offensiveness. If he wants to specialize in earth escape, he needs both offensive and defensive assistance. It would be better for him to learn a few more earth escape techniques, such as earth escape hardening technique, earth dragon spear, earth dragon bullet, etc. If that's not enough, you can ask the 3rd generation master to teach Ichiro for a few days. Now Ichiro just needs a good teacher in earth escape technique. The old man and Zhaoji Baiyun watched Ichiro asking for a huge amount of money. Now they were not worried at all that Ichiro would suffer a loss, but they were worried about the Hokage. It was impossible not to bleed a lot this time. In the Hokage's office, Team 6, along with the old man and morning Hakumo, were waiting in the Hokage's office early in the morning. The 3rd Hokage, who came to work happily, was shocked by a good thing that happened on his head early in the morning. Magnetite, are you sure? It has been confirmed. Lord Sandame can send the Anbu to investigate. Chapter 85. The lion opens its mouth. Okay, I believe you. Strategic iron ore resources, no matter how big or small, must be controlled by the village. I hope you understand. Yes, we understand. That's why we came back to report to the 3rd master. Well, that's good. You are very conscious, and you are worthy of being the successor of the Will of Fire. However, it is the principle of the village to punish those who have done wrong and reward those who have done good. Tell me what you want. As long as it is available in the village, I will try my best to satisfy you. The 3rd generation was still not very clear-headed in the morning, and dared to put the lion into the pile of meat. This was the voice of the old man and the morning teacher, and they also shook their heads at the stupid move of the 3rd generation. Thank you, Hokage-sama. The thanks from the 3 juniors made the Sandame smile. As he got older, he liked juniors who were polite and down to earth. Tell me what you want. We want. When he mentioned ninjutsu, the Sandame's expression was still calm. When he mentioned chakra metal, his face began to turn dark. When he saw a long list of earth escape techniques and the Hokage's instructions on earth escape techniques, the Sandame began to lose control of himself. He looked around at Zaijin and the old man, and was sure that it was not these 2 people who wanted to ask for so much, that is, it was the idea of the one who made the decision among the 3 kids. Kazama, the ninjutsu you want is fine, the highest is only B level, the village can give it with a little effort, but chakra metal is too expensive, and the village doesn't have much in stock, so can you give less? The dignified 3rd Hokage, just finished saying that he would give it as long as the village had it, and swallowed it back. He started to cry poor. Hokage, this face is so thick, he actually broke his promise in public. Hokage, it's not much. Look, this is the blueprint of the weapon. It's a soft sword with a very thin blade. It won't require much chakra or metal. Kazama refused to give in. The 3rd generation was speechless. He had lost his temper like that, but he still refused to give in. If you think it's too much, third Hokage, then you can reduce a few earth-style ninjutsu. You don't need the Hokage's guidance or anything like that. Kazama said it beautifully. If you think it's too much, fine, I can reduce the things I want, but I won't reduce the chakra and metal by even a pound. The third generation looked very unhappy. I mean, do you want too much ninjutsu? I don't feel sorry for how much ninjutsu you want, since you can't take it away anyway. But chakra metal is 1 ounce less every time you use it. Chakra metal is hard to understand, isn't it? The third generation was almost cursing. But this is Nobuko's weapon for battle. For a ninja who uses swordsmanship as his main means of attack, it's his life. The blueprint for the soft sword has been out for such a long time. Why hasn't it been made? Isn't it because there are no good materials? This time we finally have this good opportunity. Isn't this a thank you to the village? The words were very clear. We are waiting for chakra metal to make weapons, so don't try to blame us. Okay, the village will provide the chakra metal for this weapon, and we can also give you the ninjutsu, and it will be counted as an A-level mission for you. That's all. Is that okay? The third generation said unhappily, wishing he could give the grinning bastard in front of him a few big beatings. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Actually, due to your generosity, I can give you a hint on Earth escape. It's free. As Team 6 was about to leave, Kazama suddenly turned around and said something that no one could understand. Tell me about it. In the eyes of the third generation, Kazama's attainments in ninjutsu were not worth mentioning, but Kazama's various ideas were very constructive. Even now, although he wanted to drive him away the previous second, he now wanted to hear Kazama's new ideas. Feng Jian took out a piece of Kotaro's food, which is magnetite. Here, this is magnetite. Can you soften it with earth jutsu chakra? Although he didn't understand, the third generation did not continue to ask, but took the magnetite. Under the wrapping of chakra, it quickly softened into a piece of mud. Amazing! Lord Hokage's earth escape technique is extraordinary. Ichiro, learn from him. After a pause, he said, since it can soften, can we assume that magnetite is also a type of soil, or rock? That's right. Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes lit up. There is such an angle? Since it is also a kind of soil, why can't our earth escape technique be magnetic like this ball of mud? In other words, the Uegakuer has an earth escape technique that controls gravity, so why can't we in Konoha have a magnetic earth escape technique? This is a change in the nature of earth escape techniques that is unique to Konoha. The senior ninja present took a breath of cold air. This idea was really bold, but at the same time, it was very constructive and even had a high chance of success. To put it bluntly, the change in the nature of chakra was actually just using chakra to simulate the fixed changes in the energy formation in reality. If that was the case, then magnetite existed in the real world and was also an earth-type substance, so why couldn't it be simulated? Anbu, be alert. The Sandai suddenly spoke, and Kazama only felt a few figures flash by. Kazama, can you take responsibility for what you said? This question stumped Feng Jian. What is this? It's just a hypothesis. I can't take any responsibility. Not really. It's just a guess. If you don't like it, just pretend you didn't hear it. Why do you want me to be responsible? I can't do it myself. You know what? Once your idea succeeds, it will almost be considered as the creation of a secret technique, and it is a secret technique that is not inferior to any other attribute ninjutsu. The Cloud Village has magnetic ninjutsu, the Sand Village also has magnetic ninjutsu, and now, we in Konoha will also have magnetic ninjutsu. That's why I asked this question. However, it is obvious that you are just a big talker, and you have nothing in your hands. You are so happy for nothing. No, old man Sandai, you pick up the chopsticks to eat, and put them down to curse your mother, right? Feng Jian was so angry that his liver hurt. He kindly gave Sandai some advice to ease the awkward atmosphere caused by the blackmail, but Sandai hit him back with a heavy punch, saying disgustingly, if you have the ability, don't use it. Kazama, how can you talk like that? Apologize to the Hokage. The old man interrupted at the right time. I'm sorry, Hokage, the child is still young and doesn't know how to speak. The old man apologized first. Even if Kazama was not convinced, he didn't dare to act rashly. The third generation waved his hands to indicate that everything was fine. In Team 6, except for the Hokage's office, Nobuko and Ichiro were all excited about today's gains, except Kazama. 7 were dissatisfied and 8 were indignant. This third generation was too shameless, his methods were too cruel, and his mind was too dark. It's better to stay away from him in the future, as he doesn't have much time anyway. In the Hokage's office, the mud turned from magnetite was still on the table. Kazama's words were lingering in the third Hokage's mind. Konoha was defeated after all, and it even came to the point where it needed a child to give advice. Come here, order the Anbu to secretly explore the magnetite discovered by Team 6 and find out the reserves. The Hokage's office was empty, but a voice floated out, Hi. Chapter 86. Analysis. A unique practice. With the endorsement of the Hokage, the things that Team 6 got in exchange were quickly received. The next step was to turn the things they got in exchange into strength. In order to gain time for training, Team 6 even took on several sea-level tasks in advance and completed the targets ahead of time, just to free up nearly 2 months for concentrated training. Nobuko's soft sword is the most valuable thing this time. It is made of chakra metal. Even the son of the Hokage only has 2 tiger knuckles. Nobuko's soft sword must have made the third Hokage bleed heavily, otherwise he would not be so shameless as to personally come out and play with Kazama. Feng Jian was also curious. Most of the weapons in the ninja world were made of ordinary steel. Even Feng Jian's own weapons were made of ordinary steel. They were the same as the weapons in Feng Jian's mind. What was the difference between the soft sword made of chakra metal and the soft sword made of chakra metal? After opening the package, a long sword with a flower pattern appeared in front of me. The blade was straight and slender, thin and sharp. When I held it in my hand, it was indeed as heavy as a normal long sword. As I shook my arm, the blade was like a snake, rippling. The scabbard was a very ordinary black wood scabbard, but there was no special decoration, which looked very simple. It was normal. People in the ninja world were all practical. All kinds of fancy decorations would only attract the enemy's attention and become the enemy's target. Zinzi, I have never practiced soft sword, so I can only demonstrate the most basic techniques. You can watch first. In addition to the basic uses of the sword, the biggest feature of the soft sword is its thin blade. In addition to being sharper, it has more changes. Watch out, with a flick of your wrist, the blade will bend and attack areas that a hard sword cannot hit. Once you are familiar with the characteristics of the soft sword, add chakra and you can control the softness or hardness of the sword at will. Add chakra to the scalpel and this sword will be the kiss of death. Of course, it does have disadvantages. Without the hardness of the sword body, the soft sword has almost no defensive ability. To make up for this, I have 3 suggestions for you to consider. The first is the scabbard. You can choose a hard metal to make it. In this way, it is like a long stick in your hand. The soft sword attacks and the scabbard defends. The second is the arm armor. The arm armor that fits the forearm can not only defend but also free your hands. The disadvantage is that the arm armor is relatively rigid in defense. The third is the arm shield. It has a large defense area and flexible defense. When necessary, it can be thrown as a weapon or even used as a surfboard. The disadvantage is that it will occupy your right hand, which is not very convenient for making seals. Don't rush to choose, you can try them all and choose the one you like. After all, they are just supplements to your current means. Feng Jian told him everything he had considered. Okay, I'll think about it carefully. Nobuko nodded. The most important thing for you now is to learn how to use the soft sword and the chakra scalpel. Everything else can be postponed. Ichiro, your mission is to not only practice earth escape techniques, but also chakra sensing techniques. Kazama, you seem very anxious. Is there something wrong? I could already hear his urgency from Kazama's words. Team 6 has been in Genin for 2 years. Our foundation is almost complete. Next, it's time to strive for a higher realm, right? For example, the Chunin exam. This was what Kazama had planned long ago. Postponing the Chunin exam for 2 years will give them some time to grow and also keep up with the growth rate of the protagonists. It can't be postponed any further. If it is postponed any further, it will only be 1 step slower, and then it will be slower step by step. It can't be advanced either. If it is advanced, Team 6's strength will not be stable. If they become Chunin, the tasks and enemies they face will be much more dangerous, and their safety cannot be guaranteed. Chunin exam? Hey, if you hadn't told me, I wouldn't have noticed. We've already missed 2 Chunin exams. Nobuko nodded. Do you want to take part in the Chunin exam? Ichiro had secretly watched the Chunin exam and knew how cruel it was. Yes, so in the coming days, everyone should improve their strength as much as possible. Understand? I was very pleased watching this in the morning. Is Fengjian, who has always been very lazy and unfocused, going to be serious this time? Team 6 split up again. Ichiro took a D-level mission, practiced Earth Escape, and did some farming tasks. He liked this way. Nobuko returned to the hospital. She moved her sword practice to the evening. This young lady began to increase her intensity. Kazama is still guarding the treehouse. The chaotic lion's hair technique, a hair ninjutsu created by Jiraiya, is, in Kazama's opinion, the most suitable ninjutsu for summoned beasts. After all, 8 of the 10 summoned beasts are wild beasts with fur all over their bodies. The chaotic lion's hair technique is almost tailor-made for them. The difficulty level of learning the chaotic lion hair technique is B level. This is for humans. I don't know if it will be more difficult or easier for summoned beasts to learn it. Regardless of the result, this ninjutsu is one of the core ninjutsu prepared by Kazama for summoned beasts, and it must be learned. Fengjian has experienced quite a few battles now, but the summoned beasts are in his hands, and apart from reconnaissance, they rarely take part in the battles. One reason is that the summoned beasts are generally still young and have not yet formed combat effectiveness, and the other reason is that he has not yet figured out the training route for the summoned beasts. Now, Kazama has 5 summoned beasts. The squirrel Gitaro is the smartest and the smallest. He has 1 illusion technique, but the rest is better than nothing. Kazama thought about it for a long time and finally decided to let Kyotaro go the auxiliary route. In fact, Kyotaro's strength is not enough to support the battle. With 1 illusion technique, he can only deal with genin at present, and there is a possibility that he will be discovered. His body is too small, and except for his good speed, he can hardly pose a threat to ninjas. Fortunately, he is quite smart. Kazama's plan is to stay by his side during the battle to guard against strange and unpredictable illusions. No matter how powerful the illusion is, as long as there is an external object to disrupt the chakra of the person being cast, the illusion will be resolved. And Kai Batter is that external object. Usually, he will be a diplomat and assist Kazama in training other summoning beasts. As for whether Kai Batter can become powerful in the future, it depends on himself. Then there is the red panda Claw Taro. This guy now has enough food and exercises. His size is comparable to that of a medium-sized dog. One of his claws is very sharp. With the claw blade specially made for him by Kazama, he looks a bit like a smaller version of Wolverine. The key is that this guy is very wretched. He likes to hide underground. When 3 wolves besiege the prey, this guy suddenly appears under the prey or on its legs. When the claw blade is used, blood will inevitably be drawn. He is not greedy and will leave after the attack. Next time, he will come out from another place and continue to sneak attack. As for Katashi Taro, since his talent is Earth Escape, it is necessary to train Earth Escape. At present, besides Earth Escape, the only skill that Katashi Taro can use is pit digging. He can control Earth Escape to create a square pit more than 2 meters wide with spikes on the bottom. It is a very insidious ninjutsu. No one knows how he learned it. Anyway, Kazama remembered that since this guy has this talent, he must practice ninjutsu. Chapter 87. Looking for help. 3 wolves: the eldest brother Grey Wolf, the second sister Red Wolf, the third brother Sand Wolf. So far, only the eldest brother Grey Wolf has shown a talent for wind escape. When he runs, the wind blows under his feet. He runs so fast that the other 2 wolves can only follow behind and eat dust. Red Wolf is named after the tuft of red hair on his head. He has a bad temper and has not shown any talent yet. Fengjian is thinking about whether to use chakra test paper to test him to confirm his talent. In the ninja world, even ninja beasts must know ninjutsu. The third brother Sand Wolf. Fengjian suspected that this guy has husky genes. He is lively and active, but also annoying and curious. He can only show his talents because he lives by the forest. The furniture in the house is all made of heavy wood, which is difficult for him to bite. Because of his noisy nature, there are no mice near the treehouse now, because this guy likes to dig holes. Compared with the steady personality of the eldest brother, Grey Wolf, and the irritable personality of the second sister, Red Wolf, this guy is just careless. Every time he goes hunting, if there is no accident, it is considered that Sandwolf has performed poorly. In other words, this guy is the wolf version of Naruto, a wolf full of surprises. The 5 kids were gathered together, each with a chakra test paper. Kaibatare's test paper was split in 2, with wind attribute, which surprised Fengjian. Clotare's test paper was not only split in 2, but also shattered, with both wind and earth attributes, rare. Big Wolf Grey Wolf, the test paper was split in 2, with wind attribute, as expected. Second Wolf Red Wolf, the test paper caught fire, oh my god, fire attribute, the wolf is really as its name suggests, it was just a name given to match Grey Wolf, but now it lives up to its name, a wonderful misunderstanding. Third Brother Sand Wolf, the test paper seemed to become wrinkled and shattered in an instant, 3 wolves from a pack, with very different attributes. 5 summoned beasts, 3 of them are wind attribute. Is this fate or destiny? No need to say anything. Let's do it. I have to teach you, otherwise my path as a hunter ninja will not be worthy of its name. Gather all the summoned beasts around him, and give 3 summoned beasts with wind attributes a task, use their claws to attach chakra and carve their favorite food on a tree stump. This task sounds simple, and the summoned beasts thought their master was playing with them, and responded one after another. I can only say that even if they have wisdom, in terms of scheming, they are still more sophisticated than humans. The tree stump is hard. If they want to leave deep and clear marks on the tree stump, they must scratch the tree stump vigorously. Now the largest grey wolf needs to run to leave scratches on the tree. How can the others, who are even weaker, do that? The only way is to use chakra. Chakra is attached to the claws to increase the sharpness of the claws, just like when Kazama attached chakra to the knife. Over time, when they use chakra to strengthen the sharpness of the claws and become accustomed to it, their interest in wind attributes will be deeply rooted in their hearts. By then, learning other wind attribute ninjutsu will be easy. This is what Kazama is thinking. The difficulty lies with Red Wolf. Fengjian himself does not understand fire style, and he does not understand the changes in the chakra properties of fire style, which is not as clear as the wind attribute. How to activate Red Wolf's fire style? Fengjian needs to sacrifice some scalp and hair to figure it out. After pondering for a long time, he decided that it was no use and he had to ask for help. However, it was not easy to say it out loud. Kazama went to the door and the other party asked him what was the matter. Kazama said that he wanted the other party to teach his wolf some ninjutsu. Damn it, as soon as he said this, he was beaten up the next second. It was insulting, wasn't it? Asking someone to teach a dog, how could this be said? We must find someone who can put aside his pride and is easy to talk to. The key is that Fengjian's net worth can afford the cost, otherwise, why bother with it? After counting the experiences after traveling through time, and recalling the characters in the original work, there is only one and only person who can be invited: Uchiha Sasuke. That's right, it's the Tsundere Uchiha. This guy is good at fire jutsu. Needless to say, the Uchiha family's fire jutsu is of top quality. How can we persuade him? Compared to others who can use fire release, such as Kakashi, Sasuke definitely costs the least. If you want to hire someone, you must cater to his preferences. What does the second pillar want the most? Strength. The second pillar's pursuit of strength runs through almost the entire original work. So what methods can Kazama use to improve Sasuke's strength? Swordsmanship, archery, earth escape, water escape, spiritualism. Fengjian listed the things he could show off. Swordsmanship might interest Urjuzi, so he could teach him. I don't know if he can attract Urjuzi, so I'll give it a try. If it doesn't work, I'll reveal some explosive stuff. I'll read the original work carefully and know some secrets. Hey, Naruto, long time no see. Kazama found Naruto and asked about Sasuke's whereabouts. Sasuke, he should be training somewhere. Brother Kazama wants to see him for something. Take me to him, and I'll give you barbecue at noon. Yo, come with me, brother Kazama. Naruto got on the car and became Kazama's little brother who was looking for people. In the Uchiha clan's training ground, the breathless Nejire was looking at the targets placed around him. There were shurikens and kunai stuck on them in 2s and 3s. It seemed that he had been practicing for a while. If I were you, I wouldn't continue practicing this kind of technical stuff. Suddenly a voice sounded. Urjuzi's expression suddenly changed. He looked towards the source of the voice. When he saw who it was, his expression eased a little. What are you doing here? Naruto, do you have something to ask me? And this person, I wonder if you have any advice for me. And what about what you just said, are you looking down on the Uchiha family's shurikenjutsu? First, when dealing with strangers, it is necessary to find out their identities as soon as possible. Second, if you are not sure of their identities and strength, don't use such an interrogative tone. Third, you are not yet able to shoulder the honor of the Uchiha family, so don't always call yourself Uchiha. The Uchiha family name is like a chronic poison to you now. You don't know when it will take effect and kill you. Stop talking big. You are stronger than me, and I am not just saying it. You look down on Uchiha. I will make you pay the price. Najira's face turned purple. He hated it most when someone said that he was not strong enough. Kazama hit his sore spot accurately. Swish, swish, swish. 3 shurikens flew towards Kazama one after another, blocking his retreat. 2 kunao followed and went straight to Kazama's vital points. Ah, damn Sasuke, brother Kazama is not a bad guy. Naruto was unable to stop the two from talking nonsense, and he didn't understand it, but now that the 2 pillars were using ruthless moves, he could see it clearly. Why did they start fighting out of the blue? Child's play. Feng Jian muttered in a loud voice. He drew the short knife from his waist and rushed forward. He casually knocked away the attacks of 2 kunao, and without slowing down, he rushed straight towards the master. Sasuke is not a man who would sit there and wait for death. Shurikenjutsu is just a means for him to restrain his opponent. When he saw Kazama coming forward, he took out a kunao and was ready for close combat. Sasuke, you idiot, why did he want to fight in close combat with brother Kazama? Naruto held his head and wailed. The memory of his head being bruised by Kazama was so deep. Chapter 88. Teaching Sasuke a lesson. Kazama is a big brother who takes good care of Naruto, but at the same time, he is also a strict teacher on the road of training. Why can Naruto make significant progress without the previous chakra control training? It is because Naruto has suffered a lot from Kazama. No matter if he is not focused, absent-minded, lazy, or reckless, he will be targeted. It seems that Kazama didn't teach Naruto too much. In fact, he has been correcting Naruto's shortcomings intentionally or unintentionally by sparring or making Naruto suffer. For example, sparring is what Naruto fears the most. Naruto likes to show off his strength and do things recklessly. When his mind is hot, he will just go up and hit. The straightforward attack method was defeated by Kazama using various insidious methods, including but not limited to traps, illusions, poisoning, or various extremely shameful methods such as the 1,000 Years of Death. In Naruto's eyes, Sasuke rushing up to fight Kazama one-on-one in close combat was courting death. If close combat was useful, he would have already tried it out. Why would he wait for Sasuke to show off? The 2 men began to fight face to face with bayonets. After only a few clashes, Sasuke showed a flaw. The advantage of Chinese swordsmanship is that every move is the result of thousands of years of hard work by predecessors, and every move is a routine. Once used in the right place, the seemingly complex moves will burst out instantly because of the muscle memory formed by thousands of times of practice. Complex moves, routines, and instant use, the achievement of these 3 prerequisites means that the opponent has entered the loser's position. What is a routine? One routine after another, that's a routine. Unless Sasuke can find the flaws in these complex moves and break them in an instant, he will become the loser under the routine. The result is obvious. Facing Sasuke, Kazama had the advantage in strength, speed, and skills, routines. Sasuke's flaws were quickly exposed, and he was beaten unilaterally afterwards. Sasuke, with a head full of bruises and a bruised face, still looked arrogant and unconvinced, and sat by the campfire sulking. Until now, he still hadn't figured out why he lost. Obviously, the senior brought by Naruto was just ordinary, but once they fought, he would unconsciously reveal his flaws, and then be defeated in one blow. He couldn't figure it out. The pot of soup cooking on the campfire gave off a rich aroma. Naruto had no idea how many times he had swallowed his saliva. Kazama didn't say anything and could only wait foolishly. I stirred the soup pot slowly. This tonic soup needs to be simmered over low heat to be flavorful and retain most of the nutrients, so don't be impatient. Sasuke was the only one present who was anxious. His training was inexplicably interrupted, he was inexplicably beaten, and came here inexplicably, but in the end, one by one, they just abandoned him here and ignored him. Is there any justice in this world? What on earth are you two doing? Sasuke couldn't help it. The wounds on his face and the bump on his head reminded him that it was best not to lose his temper. He could only suppress his temper and asked in a calm tone. Even so, the resentment in his words was still clearly visible. Fortunately, Fengjian didn't care about these things. I came to you to ask for a favor, but you pounced on me before I could even say 3 sentences. I'm sorry. I was planning to ask for help, but you came to me. I can only defeat you first and then talk about other things. His matter-of-fact tone made Sasuke so angry that not only his face hurt, but also his liver. You were the one who provoked me first. You looked down on the Uchiha clan. First, I don't look down on the Uchiha family, but I look down on you. Don't get confused. Second, I just saw that there are some flaws in your training, so I gave you some advice with good intentions. As a result, not only did you not accept it, you also took it as a provocation. Kazama really couldn't muster much interest in Uchiha Sasuke. This guy's personality and temper didn't quite suit Kazama's temper. When it came to making friends, Kazama would rather choose Naruto or Ichiro, and would never choose this guy. You look down on me? That means you look down on the Uchiha clan. Sasuke's face was distorted and he was about to pounce on her again. Why should I look up to you? Is it because you show hostility towards strangers' kindness? Or is it because of your rude words and extreme personality, or because of your Uchiha surname? You are just lucky to be born into the Uchiha family. If you were born in an ordinary family, with your temper, 3 beatings a day would be the least of your punishment. Furthermore, you said that I looked down on the Uchiha clan. I have explained this before. I looked down on you. The Uchiha clan is as famous as the Senju clan. They founded Konoha village together. I have no right to look down on them. But what does this have to do with you? The glory established by your ancestors made the Uchiha clan spread throughout the ninja world, but that is not your glory. On the contrary, your every move is bringing shame to the Uchiha clan. Now that the Uchiha clan has withered, you are still acting like a 1000-year-old ninja clan. Who do you think you are? You are just a genin from Konoha. Who gave you the courage to speak like this to the person who just defeated you? In the final analysis, you are just a brat who can't see the reality clearly. No, not only can you not see the reality clearly, you even look down on anyone who is not from the Uchiha clan. Is this your pride? It's really pathetic that you are so self-admiring. You. Kazama's ridicule really hit Sasuke's sore spot. The Uchiha clan sounds good, but now there are only him and that traitor left. How can there be any Uchiha clan? He is powerless to change all this. The only thing left is the sense of glory that the Uchiha surname brings him. If he loses even this, he, Uchiha Sasuke, will really have nothing except the surname. Looking at Najima who has fallen into self-blame, isolation, and infinite emo, Fengjian suddenly felt a little sorry. Did he say something too harsh? Okay, my purpose is not to ridicule you. I'm not that bad. I just want to tell you to put down your self-esteem, your pride, your edge, and treat yourself as an ordinary person. Look at everything around you, and you will find that although this world is cruel, there are still some beautiful things. Hatred cannot make you strong. What makes you strong is always the moment when you go through untold hardships and still stick to your original intention. If you really want to restore the glory of Uchiha, then remember this sentence: the meaning of life is not how many times you fall, but how many times you can get up from falling. When it comes to comforting people, famous quotes on the internet are really useful. Your countless ancestors have created the glory of the Uchiha clan. If you want to pick it up again, you have to go through all the setbacks your ancestors suffered all over again. This journey will not be peaceful. Pride, self-esteem, and the edge of keeping strangers away are all stumbling blocks to your progress and stinking dog shit that attracts flies from enemies. Throw them away if you can. Only when your heart is empty can you hold more things. After releasing these clips, Kazama definitely has the talent to become a master of online pua. Unfortunately, this is the ninja world, and the audience are only 2 half-grown boys. Are you calm? If you are, come and have a bowl of soup, then we can discuss our deal. Don't worry, you won't lose anything. He handed a bowl of soup to Naruto. Seeing him wolfing it down, the soup must taste good. He poured another bowl and handed it to the man who had come to his senses. Thank you. After holding it in for a long time, Sasuke finally said this, blushing a little. You're welcome. Just help out when the time comes. Chapter 89. Wolf Training. The mealtime passed quickly because of the delicious soup pot and the overwhelming sense of happiness. You can use fire escape, right? Fire style is the Uchiha's talent, of course I can do it. That's great. I have a brother who wants to learn fire style. Can you help teach him? I won't teach him for nothing. I will trade my sword skills with you. The same knife skills as today. Yes. Deal. After saying the word deal, Sasuke felt that he had gotten a great deal today. He had experienced Kazama's swordsmanship personally, and the feeling of being trapped in it, unable to extricate himself, and watching himself fail, was still vivid in his mind. Where's your brother? When do we start? It's enough now. I'll call my brother over later. Feng Jian made a seal with the summoning beast in his hand and pressed it on the ground. Bang! The summoning technique was successful, the white smoke dissipated, and the agile figure of Red Wolf appeared in front of him. Here, this is my brother. No, that's not right. My sister. Sasuke understood what Kazama said, and his mentality collapsed instantly. What's going on? Didn't you say you were brothers? How could it be a summoned beast? You asked me, a great Uchiha, to teach a wolf fire escape. You outnumber you in percent, and Sasuke's mentality was completely unbalanced, and he launched a barrage of attacks at Kazama. Are you done scolding? Then get back to work. Don't resist so much. He is not an ordinary beast, nor is he just a summoned beast. As I said, he is my brother and sister. After saying that, he activated the summoning technique again and summoned the other four. To Sasuke, who was frozen on the spot, he continued, they are my friends, my brothers, beasts that I can trust completely and trust my back to. Do you still think that teaching them is an insult to you? You may also have a spirit beast in the future, and then you will understand that they are sometimes more reliable than the people in a village. Sasuke didn't refute anything. How should I teach? My father taught me fire style, which suits me. If I change to a human, he can also teach me almost the same. But how should I communicate with a wolf? Don't worry, Kaibatter will help you. He can convey all your words for you. Okay, let me try. Don't worry, try it boldly. You may have to teach your summoned beast yourself in the future. This can be considered as early adaptation. Let's try it by the river. It's too noisy here. Little ones, practice now. I'll teach you how to draw with your claws. Are you done? Ow oh oh. OM. Ah. In the open space in front of the treehouse, there were constant roars of beasts and howls of wolves. The quiet treehouse was unusually lively with the rare scene of chaos and commotion. Since he had promised Kazama, Sasuke decided to take this job seriously. The target of his teaching was a wolf. Except for the initial surprise, it was not difficult to accept after thinking it through. This was not an ordinary beast, but a teammate. Fire style. Great fireball technique. He recalled the scene of learning fire style in his mind, and demonstrated it, spitting out a fireball the size of a millstone, which scared Kaibatter and Red Wolf beside him. Hearing that this was what she was going to learn, Red Wolf's eyes lit up. Compared to the other students' lessons, this one was obviously much more beautiful. Kaibatter was also envious, but unfortunately he couldn't learn it and had to act as a translator. However, as the intellectual leader of the 5 little ones, he thought of a good idea after a while. If he couldn't learn it himself, couldn't he teach it? He took the opportunity to write down the method, and he would need it when teaching his younger brothers in the future. It would be more satisfying to fight with his younger brothers than to fight with him alone. Kaibatter was deeply poisoned by Kazama's thoughts. The learning process is very boring, at least it seems so to outsiders. Sasuke describes, Kaibatter conveys, and Red Wolf tries. After all, wolves are different from humans. Humans can pinch hand seals and mobilize chakra, but Red Wolf can only use her mind. This is also the reason why the summoned beasts are restricted from learning ninjutsu. Most of the ninjutsu of the summoned beasts comes from their own understanding, not learning. Sasuke was rarely patient this time. He knew that it would not be an easy task to teach the wolf in front of him, but he still showed 120% of his patience. Kazama's words did touch him. Although they were harsh, they at least gave him some inspiration. What he had to do now was to seize every opportunity to become stronger. He was determined to learn Kazama's swordsmanship. Brother Kazama, what should I learn? I have already learned the shadow clone, but I don't know any attribute ninjutsu. Sasuke knows fire escape, and I also want to learn escape. Naruto has been a spectator for a long time. The open space in the treehouse is bustling with activity. Can Naruto, who is so crazy, hold back? Do you know your chakra properties? Do not know. Take this and try it, this is what Kakashi taught you. Kazama took out the chakra test paper. There are many members in his family, so in order to understand the conditions of each member, he prepared a lot of these things. Ah, it's wind attribute. Looking at the test paper split into two halves, Naruto shouted exaggeratedly. I see. As for wind jutsu, okay, I know that, so it's no problem for me to teach you. Take the kunao and practice with Taro and the others. Kazama didn't plan to teach him step by step, and he didn't have the time. Teaching Naruto was a very painful thing, and Kazama didn't want to make things difficult for himself. With them. What? You look down on them? They also practice wind escape. They can do it, but you can't? If you don't want to practice, get out of here. Practicing, isn't it just carving a picture? It's easy. Remember, you have to keep your chakra wrapped around the kunao at all times. TCH, I get it. Kazama also began to think about his own problems. First of all, although he had been practicing perception ninjutsu and improving accuracy, he didn't achieve much, and he didn't have any good ideas at the moment. Water escape and earth escape can only be considered as rough skills. In fact, they are used for long-range attacks to make it easier for oneself to hide and escape. What really affects his strength is actually wind escape and archery, or in other words, wind escape affects the power of archery, and archery gives wind escape a longer range. The two affect each other. At present, the only move that Kazama has created by combining the two is Breeze Arrow. Of course, Kazama is actually very satisfied with both the power and the range. However, for the upcoming Chunin exam, he only has one move, Breeze Arrow, which seems to be a bit insufficient. The key is that the third round of the Chunin exam is an indoor training ground with limited space, so there is almost no room for archery. At the final competition, Kabuto Yakushi's illusions disrupted the game, and then a series of events followed. It seems that it is only possible to improve my strength now. I have been thinking about wind escape archery these days, so I'll try it out more while I have time. The first thing to be modified is the arrow. The feathers are changed to spiral or oblique lines, so that they will rotate during flight, increasing the power of the arrow. Another thing is the change in the nature of the wind chakra. The breeze arrow simply attaches the wind chakra to the arrow without much control and shaping. Now it is like putting a layer of wind-style chakra film on the arrow, and the nature of the chakra needs to be deepened. What is the deepening of chakra nature? In fact, this involves the understanding of the change of chakra nature. For example, if the two people who have completed the change of fire escape nature, can the power of the fire escape of the third generation and Sasuke be the same? Of course not. Chapter 90. Wind escape archery. Excluding the influence of external factors, the third generation, who has been immersed in fire escape for a lifetime, can be said to have played the fire attribute property change to the extreme, while Sasuke, although he has also completed the property change, is actually far behind the third generation. This involves the issue of the degree of the fire attribute property change. If the ultimate completion of the property change is 100%, then the third generation is about 90%, and Sasuke, who has just completed the property change, is lucky to have 60%, this is the difference. Kazama is the one who completed the property change of wind attribute. Now he needs to continue to strengthen the property change in order to achieve the goal of enhancing wind archery. I remember in the original work, Naruto finished cutting leaves, and the next training seemed to be cutting waterfalls. What's the mystery? Why cut waterfalls? Cutting waterfalls is definitely not the goal, but a means to achieve the goal. Kazama needs to know what the goal is, or in other words, what is the purpose of doing this training. I looked up at the sky and thought for a long time, but I had no idea. The original book did not explain this in detail. This is quite annoying, saying only half of the sentence. If that doesn't work, try going to the waterfall. This is the only solution I can think of right now. There are many small rivers and waterfalls near Konoha village, and they are not difficult to find. Of course, don't even think about the torrent-like waterfalls in the original work, as Kazama doesn't have that ability. He randomly found a waterfall that was more than 10 meters high, and watched the water falling from the sky like a silk thread, and then crashing into the bottom of the pool, or smashing on the rocks. After watching from a distance for a while, Feng Jian could feel that his clothes were beginning to get wet, because the moisture here was too heavy. It doesn't matter whether the water vapor is heavy or not, but the experiment must be done. Take off your clothes, leaving only your underwear, activate the earth escape, and build a solid stone pier at the bottom of the waterfall for your convenience. In the past, the Condor hero practiced swordsmanship in the water, and I didn't expect that today I would have to practice chakra under the waterfall. God spares no one, and I sighed pretentiously and stepped into the waterfall. Damn, I thought it was easy. A waterfall more than 10 meters high, under the effect of gravity, has a very strong impact. No wonder in the original work, the wooden fork Naruto used for training was outside the waterfall, not facing the impact of the waterfall. Earth escape, elevator raised the stone pier again, allowing it to face the impact of the waterfall directly. Feng Jian avoided it but did not go far away, so that he could reach out and touch the waterfall. Wind-style chakra appeared in his hand, condensing into a blade shape. After approaching the waterfall, the force of the rush immediately acted on his hand, and of course the chakra blade was no exception. After only 3 or 2 seconds, the chakra blade visible to the naked eye could no longer be maintained and was about to collapse. So that's it. As expected, practice is the only criterion for truth. Durability, or resistance to interference, is what the waterfall trains, to be able to maintain the stability of the wind chakra under various squeezes. Now think about it, assume as wind chakra can be maintained throughout the mobile warfare without fluctuating due to the enemy's collisions and the intensity of the battle. It is indeed quite amazing. Very good. The most frightening thing is to have no direction. Now that the direction has been found, all that remains is time and sweat. A day passed quickly, and there was not much progress in the training of maintaining the stability of wind chakra. It seemed that this training was a long-term and slow process. That was right, Naruto had spent several days to gain experience by creating hundreds of shadow clones. It was only the first day for me, so it was impossible to make any progress. Feng Jian chose to do stability training every afternoon, and spent the rest of the time training animals and practicing wind archery. Wind escape archery combines wind escape and archery, so wind escape has a direction. As for archery, Kazama decided to start with the arrows. In addition to the materials of the bow and arrows themselves, the shape also determines the power of the arrows. The shape of the bow is the English longbow that Kazama carefully selected at the beginning, but now it cannot be changed. He can only work hard on the arrows. The arrows are nothing but feathers, shafts, and arrowheads. The shafts are nothing special, as each one is made by Feng Jian himself. The arrowheads are also custom-made, so there is not much room for modification. What can be modified is the feathers, the shape of the feathers, and the way they are installed. The arrow feathers are changed from long strips to teardrop shapes, and the installation method is changed from symmetrical vertical to spiral installation. The advantage of this is that after the arrow is shot, it will rotate and become more stable. If the wind chakra is added, the rotating arrow will become a rotating cannonball with stronger penetration. He drew his bow and put an arrow on it, chakra attached to the arrow, and the breeze arrow was launched. With a whoosh sound, only the sound was heard, but no shadow was seen. The tree trunk he was aiming at made a bang sound, and the center of the tree trunk exploded, exposing a hole as thick as a thigh, and sawdust flew everywhere in the center of the tree trunk. The arrow penetrated the tree trunk directly and pierced into the rock behind the tree trunk, which was more than 1 person tall. It was deeply embedded in it, leaving only half of the arrow shaft outside, making a buzzing and trembling sound. The stone didn't get any benefit either. It cracked into several pieces along the place where the arrow penetrated. The rock was shattered into pieces, but it didn't fly out. In the same scene, Feng Jian continued his test. This time, he used arrows with spiral feathers. He bent the bow and put the arrow on it, and attached chakra. Swish was still a sound, but no arrow was seen. On the tree trunk he was aiming at in the distance, the hole was several circles larger than the previous one. The rock behind the tree trunk collapsed directly and shattered into a pile of rubble. Obviously only a small change in the arrow feathers resulted in a huge difference in power. The arrow's penetration became stronger. If the stability of the wind-style chakra was changed and the arrow-type chakra was amplified almost tangibly, this stone should have exploded into pieces. With such power, as long as it hits, no senior ninja would dare to take his arrow. Let's name it Wind-Piercing Arrow. This move needs to complete the change in its stability properties before it can be considered the complete version of Wind Escape Arrow technique, so the name has to be decided first. Now that the direction of the modification has been determined, Kazama's arrows need to be remade. This is a big project. After making only 100 or so arrows, Kazama gave up. There is no need to remake them. Not only is this move not perfect yet, but such powerful wind escape arrows will definitely not be used many times. What's the point of having more arrows? They will just be put away after they are made. Why bother? Give up. On the contrary, after sorting out the existing arrows, Feng Jian's mind was opened. The existing arrows include wolf-tooth arrows, which are mainly used for hunting, ordinary arrows, which are used for combat, and armor-piercing arrows, which are used for long-range sniping and armor-piercing, but they have not been used yet. Explosive arrows, which have a trigger detonator inside the arrow shaft. Positioning arrows, which have a trigger positioning symbol inside the arrow shaft, are used to locate the enemy, but they have not been used much. This time, Feng Jian decided to make new arrows, including poisonous water arrows containing poison, seal arrows containing sealing talismans, smoke arrows containing smoke bombs, and blinding arrows containing chili powder. Hiss, I am becoming more and more sinister. The world is so beautiful, but I am so irritable. This is not good. This is not good. He sealed the arrows he had made into the sealing scrolls one by one. Now Feng Jian's arrows all have special sealing scrolls. The key is that there are many types of arrows, and he is afraid of making mistakes. Chapter 91. Psychic Beast. 2 months of time, broken down, every day of hard training was difficult to endure, put together, 2 months of time passed in a flash. The vacation of the 6th class is over, and carrying out tasks has become the daily routine of the 6th class. The 3 members of Class 6 didn't object. During the 2 months of training, everyone's schedule was fully scheduled. Learning at full capacity was like a bow with a full string. The tense nerves were actually very tiring. Carrying out tasks was actually a good place for Class 6 to relax. Sea-level mission, clear the wild animals around Shilin village. Zhao Ma looked at the mission introduction again and announced the mission content to Class 6. Yo, after training for so long, it's time to show off your skills again. Ichiro has become more talkative in the past 2 months, because he has a talkative pangolin, Kotaro, by his side. Both of them have lived alone for a long time, so now that they are familiar with each other, they can talk about all kinds of things, and the man and the beast are a perfect match. Just right, my new swordsmanship hasn't been used yet. Nobuko touched the wide leather belt around her waist, which contained a soft sword made of chakram metal. You are the main force this time, and I will be responsible for providing intelligence support. My perception skills need to improve. By the way, if you encounter a beast with chakra, stay behind first. Feng Jian reminded. Okay, we'll pay attention. Do you want to contract more summoned beasts? Kazama, I remember you have already tamed 5. It is expected that continuously increasing the number and enhancing their strength will help you more, right? Zhao Jian had not participated in the training of Team 6 in the past 2 months. Instead, he was dealing with the Jonin mission that was delayed by Team 6. He was not clear about the content of Team 6's training. After all, in his mind, Team 6 did not need his supervision in training. Mr. Zhaojian, who said I didn't train them? Feng Jian flipped his hand seals, activated the spirit summoning technique, and summoned the 5 little ones. In 2 months, the 5 little ones had obvious changes. With sufficient food and high-intensity training, in addition to their growth in size, each of them gave people a strong feeling. They were no longer pets that could be seen at a glance, but beasts with murderous intent. The one who changed the most was Red Wolf. Since he started practicing fire style with Suzuki, his fur began to change. The black-gray fur gradually turned into black-red. From a distance, the running Red Wolf looked like lava with black smoke. The name of Red Wolf lived up to her name. Her strength also jumped to become the strongest among the 3 wolves. The other 2 wolves really didn't know how to deal with fire style except to hide. Red Wolf, show us the results of your training over the past 2 months. A wooden Red Wolf stepped forward, roared at several people, and dug her limbs into the ground to stand firm. After accumulating a little strength, she opened her mouth and spit out a fireball the size of a millstone, which roasted the grass in front of her and emitted a smoky smell of fire. Is this fire style? Zhao Jian looked at Red Wolf in shock. He had seen the growth of the three wolves. In his opinion, being able to keep up with Kakashi's 8 ninja dogs was a good talent. Now that he had learned fire style, it was a different story. Even though fire style was not powerful yet, being able to learn it spoke volumes. With more practice, its power would naturally increase. Okay, Red Wolf is really good. I didn't expect that she has learned fire style. Your summoning beast, the teacher is jealous. This is true. As I said before, the reason why most of the Jonin don't have a contract with a summoning beast is because the strength of the summoning beast is too low. Those with good talents can barely have the strength of a Chunin, and those who are worse are just slightly stronger than ordinary wild beasts. Summoning beasts are completely useless to them. But it is different for summoned beasts that have learned escape techniques. Even the worst escape techniques are at least C-level ninjutsu, which can already help in battle. If they are stronger, or cooperate with ninjas and perform some fusion ninjutsu, then they can definitely be B-level ninjutsu, or even A-level. That is the killer level. Red Wolf's fire style is just right for Morning Sensei's wind style. Are you jealous? You're right to be jealous. If Red Wolf can learn it, the others will also gain something. I am sure that before the end of the year, each of them will have the ability to use ninjutsu. As soon as these words were spoken, the gaze that was staring at Red Wolf in the morning immediately changed its target and stared at Kazama, and his expression changed from satisfaction to seriousness. Is this true? Of course. You watched the 5 children grow up. Don't you know their level? They were taught little by little. Zaojian nodded. Gosho grew up right under his nose. It was reasonable to say that he was also clear about Gosho's abilities. He was really taught little by little. Zaojian suddenly wanted to cover his face. There were so many ninjas in Konoha village, why didn't anyone want to train summoned beasts? Oh, it's not that there weren't any, such as the Inyazuka clan, but their training method was ninja dogs, not summoned beasts. Now thinking about it, Zaojian found that he actually regretted not listening to Kazama and training a few summoned beasts. Now he could only envy them. Feng Jian's decisive answer made Zhao Jian feel very complicated. Regret, pity, envy? It seemed like a little bit of all of them. Ninjas can be trained, and of course ninja beasts can be trained as well. It may even be easier to train ninja beasts as long as the right method is found. Touching his chin, Kazama began to talk to himself again. Zaojian was puzzled, but after understanding what Feng Jian meant word by word, he was stunned. What do you mean it is easier than training a ninja? What is this? Is training a ninja worse than training a ninja beast? Be clear. That's right, stop talking to yourself and let us join in your conversation. Can't understand. Let me put it this way. It took us 3 years to grow from Genin who just graduated from the ninja school to the comparable Chunin we are now. Teacher Zaojian, what do you think of our talents and how fast we are growing? Kazama began to ask explanatory questions again, and Zaojian naturally cooperated with him happily. I won't talk about talent, you all know it very well. As for the growth rate, it's above average. At least it's worth cultivating. Well, looking at my school, when I discovered them, they had just awakened their chakras and opened their wisdom, and were barely at the genin level. Do you agree? Zaojian nodded without saying anything. It was a bit hasty to wear the hat of a genin just from awakening chakra. Some beasts could fight with the fighting power comparable to genin even without chakra. This standard was difficult to determine, but Zaojian understood what Kazama meant, so he nodded in agreement. In the 3 years since then, Benitaro has learned fire release. It's a bit arrogant to call him a Chunin. He can be considered a senior genin. Zaojian nodded again. He probably understood what Feng Jian meant. Why is it that it takes 3 years to train a human ninja from a genin to a Chunin, but no one trains ninja beasts? I don't understand. Aren't ninja beasts considered our comrades? From another perspective, being able to awaken chakra and wisdom on their own, they are considered the top existences in their race. On the human side, only top geniuses can be compared to them. Why can't humans see such talents and find a way to cultivate them? Humans are the creatures that are best at using tools, so why are they so stuck in thinking about summoning beasts? Chapter 92. Training. You're quite right. Kazama's perspective opened up Zaojian's mind, but also made him realize what they had overlooked. This is a common problem in ninja thinking, where they focus too much on developing their own abilities and neglect the development of external things. So, what do you want to say? Nobuko, who was the first to react, raised her question. I would say that psychic beasts are worth nurturing and developing. That's it. Otherwise, do you want me to study how to cultivate summoning beasts? Are you kidding? I'm a ninja, not a researcher. Feng Jian retorted. This is very annoying. I was clearly giving you ideas, but how did it become what I want to do, as if I want to develop believers? Let me remind you, you two also have spiritual beasts, so start training them early. Zinzi, your groundhog is already showing signs of becoming useless. Who said that? My Zioataro is cute. Besides being cute, what else can he do? My Kaibataro can perform and dispel illusions, act as a translator, transmit information, command teams, etc. And your groundhog, hehe. We talked about the issue of groundhogs last time, but Nobuko didn't take any action at all. She really treated the groundhog as a pet. Ichiro, what are you laughing at? Your Kotaro is just as useless, okay? Ichiro was forced to join the battle as he watched his two teammates bickering with a smile. Kotaro is not a useless pet. Ichiro refused to admit it. Kotaro had been on Ichiro's shoulder, chirping to express his dissatisfaction. Seeing that no one paid attention to him, he rushed out along Ichiro's arm. Then he jumped hard, rolled into a ball in the air, and slammed into Nobuko. Such a sudden attack, coupled with the close distance between the few people, Nobuko instinctively raised her hand to resist, and Kotaro, who was as big as a grapefruit, collided with Nobuko's arm like an iron ball. With a muffled groan, Nobuko couldn't help but take a step back, and Kotaro missed the attack, immediately changed the angle, changed the direction on the ground, picked it up again, flew into the ball, and hit Nobuko. This time the angle was chosen very well. Facing the attack from behind, Zinza barely turned around, but was too late to make any more moves. She was hit directly in the shoulder, causing Zinza to stagger again. Okay, Kotaro, Nobuko is not an enemy. Ichiro reacted and quickly called back his own summoning beast, which angered Nobuko. She started shouting and killing, and Ichiro couldn't handle it. Ha, what a combative pangolin. Ichiro's pangolin had just joined Team 6 not long ago, and there was not much attention in the morning. It was just a summoned beast. Now it seems that I was wrong. I had only seen such an intelligent psychic beast on Kaibataro this morning. However, Kaibataro was very lively but not combative. Kotaro was such a thief. Seeing that his master couldn't protect him, he quickly climbed up the tree, looked at Nobuko arrogantly, and continued to provoke her. Nobuko chopped down the tree trunk with a few knives, and then dug a hole and hid in the ground. Nobuko was helpless. The art of spiritual communication. Zinza finally remembered that he still had a spiritual beast to use, so he ordered the fat groundhog wearing a small vest to teach the pangolin hiding underground a lesson. The groundhog was very interested, but after a few minutes, he came out with bruises and wounds all over his face, and tears in his eyes. Nobuko lost her temper. They were both summoned beasts. Zyuantaro had been following her for a long time, while Kotaro had only been there for a short time. Yet, she still couldn't beat him. Nobuko was so angry that she had no place to vent. See? This is what happens when you don't have training. Kotaro hasn't trained either? I know that. Humph, he follows Ichiro to do D-level missions every day. He follows Ichiro as long as he goes. You have seen Ichiro on missions before. Being able to keep up with him is the best physical training. Okay, Nobuko, your Zyuataro really needs training. If you keep raising him like this, he will really degenerate into a pet. He came out to smooth things over in the morning. Class 6 was usually very harmonious, and there were a few arguments occasionally. As a teacher, he could calm things down by coming out to smooth things over. Okay, I got it. He glared at Zyuataro, who embarrassed him fiercely, and said, I will train him every day from now on. I have intensive training here. Under intensive training, as long as one learns, the others will follow suit, and training will be much easier. Count me in. Nobuko's eyes immediately sparkled. Didn't he know that Zyuataro wanted to be trained? He knew, but he had no idea how to train him. In addition, Zyuataro was so good at acting cute that he gave up the idea of training him. And my Kotaro. Ichiro also wanted to get involved. Teacher, do you want to come? Feng Jian asked suddenly. Me? I don't have a spirit beast, how can I participate? Just because you don't have it now doesn't mean you won't have it forever. Your strength has reached a bottleneck, right? Don't you want to train a spirit beast to increase your abilities? Don't you consider your family? Don't you consider your future son? Okay, I got it. I'll start looking for a summoned beast right away, okay? He admitted defeat in the morning, and he finally understood that he had been delayed for so long, and it turned out that he was being plotted against. They had been master and apprentice for 3 years, and Feng Jian's temperament was very clear. If there was no purpose, he would not talk so much. Today, he talked so much, probably because he wanted to train a summoned beast, and secondly, he probably changed his mindset and trained a summoned beast. It's even possible that there are other tricks that he hasn't said yet. When this guy said something, he at least did it once and thought about it once. Never fight a battle you are not sure of, that's what people like Feng Jian are talking about. Feng Jian was overjoyed. Great! The plan to train summoned beasts had finally started. With the morning teacher as the walking advertisement, the plan to train and sell summoned beasts could be put on the agenda. What does it take to train as a ninja? Methods? Plans? These are not the main things, but resources. It just so happens that the 3 people in Team 6 have very little resources behind them. At least Kazama has an old man who has some connections. The other 2 are just lucky. After such a long time together, these 2 have no intention of running the business. They are probably destined to live on commissions for the rest of their lives. There is no other way, so Feng Jian has to find out the way to run the business and bring these 2 along. Oh, and now we have to add the morning teacher. This person is the pillar and supporter of the 6th class, and he must stand up. Feng Jian, who was a lazy person in his previous life, has to start a business in this life. Who can he complain to? It's really fate. There is a saying that Kazama agrees with in his 2 lifetimes, money can solve 99% of the troubles, and the remaining percent is the troubles that everyone has and does not need to be solved. After the Chunin exam, Kazama's money-making business must be strengthened. No one can resist a summoning beast that is both soft and cute and can also provide combat assistance, said Feng Jian. Chapter 93. The mission begins. The whole journey was spent discussing summoning beasts. The village where the mission was issued was called Shilin Village. It was on the outskirts of the Konoha Great Forest. Because it was a rare mountainous terrain and close to the land of earth, the undulating rocky peaks and the various plants living in the cracks became the characteristics of this place. Because of the terrain, Shilin Village mainly relies on gathering and hunting. The complex terrain here is also suitable for the survival of various wild animals. The mission issued this time is actually to deal with the giant wild boars that appeared around the village. Rural people know that in the forest, there are only pigs, bears and tigers. When wild boars get angry, no animal dares to face the crazy wild boars. The wild boars that appeared in Shilin Village were led by a giant wild boar. Their activities not only affected the lives of residents, but also affected the living space of surrounding animals. After all, Shilin Village made a living by hunting and gathering, and the existence of the giant wild boar almost made them lose their source of livelihood. Fortunately, this is the ninja world. If you are unsure about a problem, you can go to the ninja village to ask for a task and there will be ninjas to help you solve it. The wild boar that the villagers couldn't handle was just a C-rank task for the ninja. How can a wild boar be so difficult to deal with? Listening to the villagers' description, I feel that it must be a big mountain. Zinzi went to the village to inquire around, but the information about wild boars was mixed, and there was no definite news. It's normal. When people talk, they always add their own thoughts and imagination unconsciously. It's good enough to confirm the existence of the giant wild boar. At most it will take a little more time. We can disperse to look for traces. Zhao Jian comforted Zinzi. Intelligence is like this, true and false, and it is often difficult to distinguish. It's good enough to grasp the key points. Let me take care of it next. We've been training them for so long, it's time to practice in actual scenarios. Feng Jian took the initiative to take on the task. It would be a thankless task to really hire people to search for the wild boar's tracks. Why not use better means if there are better ones? The spiritual art summoned the 5 children and sent them to look for the wild boar, while the people of the 6th team actually returned to Shilin village to rest. This is really Feng Jian's words, and the 5 children ran away. Even capitalists are not so evil. Is it really okay for you to let them out to scout like this? Will they encounter any danger? Zinzi was a little worried. He had watched Wuxiao grow up, and although he was not his summoned beast, he got along quite well with him. Don't worry, the forest is their home ground, and they have been trained for so long that ordinary beasts can't do anything to them. Even if they can't beat them, they will still run away. But they are not ordinary wild beasts, they are summoned beasts, and they have been trained by professional ninjas. Trust them. Alas, Nobuko always felt hesitant to deal with summoned beasts, and Kazama was also a little worried, but never expressed it. We just need to prepare the food and wait for them to come back and enjoy it. Sure enough, Wuxiao, who had been out for more than 2 hours, came back and even brought back prey, such as pheasants and hares, which he caught while reconnaissance. Kataro, what's going on? Kyotaro was the only one who could speak clearly, so of course he was the one to explain. Found it, what a big wild boar. I feel like the pig seems to have mutated. Kaibatter is as intelligent as anyone else. He can even understand some of Kazama's books. Since Kaibatter used the word mutation, there must be a reason. What's the basis for that? It's too big, beyond the maximum growth rate of a wild boar, and there are obvious chakra fluctuations on its body. It doesn't look very smart, and it's unhygienic and likes to sleep in the mud. Kaibatter expressed it very clearly that this giant wild boar had awakened its chakra. Is it because of the chakra that caused the body mutation? Asked Zhao Jian. Everyone was silent, no one could answer. The existence of chakra in the ninja world created all kinds of strange creatures. It was not unacceptable for the body to be a little bigger. Let's eat first, then take a nap. In the afternoon, we'll deal with the wild boars. If we have time, we can search the area carefully. We may find other gains. What's the catch? If there is a wild boar that awakens chakra, then of course there are other beasts that awaken chakra. You don't want one more summoning beast, but for me, the more the better. Ichiro and Nobuko looked at each other with a light flashing in their eyes. They had seen Kazama's summoned beast learn fire style, but that would be a lie to say they were not interested in summoned beasts. Although they already had one with them, as Kazama said, who knew if the next one would be better? The more the better. After lunch break, all members of Class 6 set out, led by Wuxiao, and headed straight for the quagmire where the giant wild boar was. This is a small mountain stream with a small amount of water. However, due to the undulating terrain, it has formed large and small pools. One of the pools, which is 7 or 8 meters in radius, is not as clear as the other pools. On the contrary, it is filled with turbulent mud and has a rotten stench. A giant wild boar rolls in the middle, stirring up waves of black mud from time to time. Found it. The formation of a pool of water means that this is a mountain stream. Looking at the giant wild boar in the mud below, Feng Jian was the first to discover it and reminded his companions. Hiss, it's really a giant wild boar. It must have mutated to grow so big. Zenzi exclaimed. This was the first time he had seen such a big wild boar. It was more than a foot long, with sickle-like fangs, covered with black hair, and well-developed bristles on its back. Even in the mud, it did not bend down, but fluttered in the wind, quite coquettish. It was obviously a giant wild boar, but its body was not bloated, but gave people the feeling of being strong, wild, and fierce. What a powerful wild boar! Ichiro couldn't think of any other words, this was his only exclamation. Ichiro, can you sense his chakra? What's it like? As Ichiro learned the art of perception, his perception of chakra became deeper and deeper. For example, he could sense the state of chakra to a certain extent. Some people's chakra is full of vitality, like Naruto, some are more violent, like Sasuke, some are heavy, like Ichiro himself, and some are sharp, like Nobuko. This feeling is very subtle and can express the characteristics of the chakra owner to a certain extent. How should I put it? Very angry, but also very violent, just like a wild boar. Ichiro's explanation was quite accurate, and it made people's mentality collapse. What does it mean to be like a wild boar, and to have chakra as violent as a wild boar? It's okay to say that. It seems that the chakra only strengthened his body, and did not awaken a high level of wisdom. Feng Jian analyzed in his mind. Several people stood on a high place and commented on the wild boar in the pond. The wild boar involved was not happy. Even if he was not very smart, he was at least the king of this area. He would never allow any creature that could stand up to appear around him. If there was any, he would kill it. The wild boar in the mud rolled over a few times, then stood up from the mud, climbed quickly to the shore, and squealed like a pig to the people on high ground. The pig's squeal was very loud and shrill, as if his piglets had been caught and not returned to him. But due to the current terrain, the giant wild boar is in a mountain stream washed out by a mountain spring. Team 6 is standing on the edge of the stream, and no matter how the giant wild boar howls, it poses no threat to them. On the contrary, Team 6 has countless ways to deal with the giant wild boar. The giant wild boar could feel the threat from the humanoid creatures standing there, so it could only use this confrontation method. Soon, the wild boar's howling really called for help. A group of normal-sized wild boars came to the mountain stream in groups. Wild boars of all sizes gathered together, not only failing to help, but also occupying the space of the giant wild boar. For a while, the wild boars howled one after another in the mountain stream. Chapter 94. Determination. Even if the giant wild boar called the herd, under the terrain here, unless the wild boar can fly, it will not pose any threat to Team 6. Since there is no threat, then Team 6's mission is much simpler, just deal with the giant wild boar. How do we deal with this thing? Just kill it? Zinzi asked. He hated this kind of brainless and reckless creature the most. It had no skills at all and relied entirely on its size and strength to bully people. Besides, wild boars did not suit his taste and he had no interest in standing here and watching them howl. We have no choice but to kill it. Looking at its temper, it's not someone who can be persuaded. It's such a pity. With such a strong body and awakened chakra, it could be a summoning beast. Feng Jian clicked his tongue, feeling it was really a pity. I don't want it. It's too ugly and dirty. Nobuko has no feelings for wild boars at all. Ichiro had no intention of participating at all. Let's kill them. Who of you will do it? Feng Jian looked at his two companions. They were so stupid that they didn't run away in such a terrain. It was not difficult to snipe them. Feng Jian couldn't muster up interest and let his companions practice. Ichiro didn't hesitate at all and jumped down directly. It was too late to stop him. Kazama covered his face. Can't he just stand there and perform ninjutsu? Must he go down and fight? Never mind. Kazama was too lazy to lecture. Now was not the time to lecture. People can teach people 100 times, but once is enough. Ichiro couldn't change this habit without suffering a little loss. As a ninja, Ichiro has a bad habit, that is, when facing an enemy, close combat is always his first choice. No matter who the enemy is, a ninja or a wild boar, he will rush up and fight first. Ninjutsu is often used when he is at a disadvantage and has to break the situation, or when he must use ninjutsu to fight the enemy. Ninja, what a strange and unpredictable profession. In Ichiro's case, he has forced the behavior into a habit. This is not good. Being resourceful is the essence of a ninja. How can it be rigid and dogmatic? This needs to be changed. The wild boar, who was standing on the high cliff and could do nothing but howl, suddenly found that the enemy had come to him. What good thing is this? What is there to do? With the wild boar's brain, it didn't even think about whether it could win or not. It only had one thought, to knock down the enemy in front of it and trample it under its feet. So, when Ichiro jumped off the cliff, it attracted the attention of all the wild boars. Amid the giant wild boar's shrill howls, all the wild boars launched a collective charge. The giant wild boar took the lead, and all the obstacles in front of him were pushed aside, stepped on, and dug away by him. Like a heavy armored car, it rushed straight towards Ichiro. Ichiro, be careful! Zhao Jian couldn't help but warn. The narrow mountain stream, because of the wild boar's charge, actually showed the momentum of thousands of troops. If it were him, or Nobuko, or Kazama, they would never take it head-on. But it was Ichiro who went down, the strong student who was always silent and stood behind his companions. Retreating and dodging were never his first choice, just like he preferred close combat. Ninjutsu could be resolved and dodged, but not physical combat. Every punch and kick was real. He also didn't like to dodge, and a head-on confrontation was his favorite choice. So when faced with the giant wild boar that was crushing him like a legion's charge, his choice was to hold the iron rod across his chest, step forward, and assume the best defensive posture he could. Bang! The two of them collided fiercely like two wild bulls. Ichiro was pushed by the wild boar, and his two calves were already halfway sunk into the mud. The huge force made Ichiro's two legs plow two furrows like plowing the land. The destructive force caused by the two brute forces caused the surrounding ground to break and smoke and dust to rise. The remaining people in the 6th class watched their companions being drowned by the wild boars, their eyes were bloodshot, but they did not have time to stop them. Ichiro. Nobuko had spent the longest time with Ichiro and had the best relationship with him. Now she was in tears. If she was trampled by a group of wild boars, even if she was a senior ninja, she would be seriously injured or even die. Stop making noise, Ichiro hasn't lost yet. Kazama was also worried that something might happen to Ichiro, so he turned on his senses. Even at such a close distance, even with the smoke and dust blocking his view, he could still sense Ichiro's situation. Ichiro's body may be damaged now, but his chakra is still strong, and his breathing is intense but still powerful. He hasn't lost yet. Feng Jian shouted, running along the mountain stream towards Ichiro's position, as close to Ichiro as possible. This way he could get a clearer picture of Ichiro's situation. The others were stunned and hurried to catch up. What should I do now? Zinzi involuntarily clasped her hands in front of her chest, completely at a loss. This is Ichiro's choice. We can only wait for the outcome of the fight. If Ichiro is injured, I will kill all the wild boars for revenge, but now, both of you just watch quietly and don't interfere. Zhao Jian had a fierce look on his face. As a teacher, he might not have a strong presence at ordinary times, but now, no one dared to refute him. Ichiro. Zhejian sighed in his heart. Team 6 might not be the strongest genin, but it was the one that made him sigh the most. Today, Ichiro even taught him a hard lesson. Once upon a time, he also faced a strong enemy like this and fought to the death. At that time, there was no fear, and the only thing he saw was whether the enemy would fall. Today, Ichiro was facing only a wild boar, but this wild boar might not even be comparable to a jonin in some aspects, such as strength and defense. But Ichiro is still able to face the challenge head-on and not retreat. With such a character, all that is left of Ichiro's path to becoming a jonin is his means. Why do many people struggle all their lives and still become a chunin? Chunin can be achieved through hard work, but jonin is a pillar of support in any village. Every jonin is not only strong in strength, but also in character, mind, and tolerance. In other words, Ichiro, in addition to strength, is not inferior to jonin in character, mind, and tolerance. It seems that Kazama was right when he said that Ichiro would definitely become a jonin. Down the mountain stream, the giant wild boar and Ichiro's strength contest continued. The giant wild boar's hind legs kept digging at the ground, trying to find a solid ground to leverage. The body arched up to accumulate strength for the next time. The iron rod held by Ichiro in both hands has become crescent-shaped, or in other words, it is this iron rod that has endured the huge impact of the two sides. When it was designed, it was originally intended to allow the iron rod itself to have the defensive properties of steel while also taking into account some elasticity, so it was made of 6 iron rods with fan-shaped cross-sections and the thickness of a pen. Therefore, the elasticity of this iron rod itself is also very good. It is precisely because of this elasticity that Ichiro has some buffer in the impact of the power of the wild boar. Otherwise, his arms would have been fractured and broken at the moment of contact. Not to mention stopping the giant wild boar. Chapter 95, Boar Rider. The wrestling between the two men reached a stalemate stage. At this point, it was not only about explosive power, but also about endurance. Even though the wild boar was stronger, it had no acceleration to increase its impact force when it pushed the ground with its 4 hooves, and it was difficult for it to fully exert its strength. Ichiro tried his best to intercept the wild boar, which was all he could do. If the wild boar attacked again, he would not be able to intercept it. At the stalemate stage, the situation gradually cooled down, the smoke and dust cleared, and the scene of a man and a pig confronting each other appeared. Come on, Ichiro. Nobuko saw that her companion was fine, and her worries disappeared. Seeing her companion trembling all over and trying his best, her complaints turned into cheers. Following Nobuko's voice, Kazama also joined in, followed by Goko. Squeak. In Wu Xiao's mind, Ichiro's behavior is more understandable. It is obvious that Ichiro is challenging the wild boar leader. When a new king is born in each tribe, he will challenge the previous leader. Or he will lead the tribe to challenge other tribes. This is a very normal thing among wild animals. Therefore, they were even more excited about Ichiro's challenge to the wild boar leader, and they were more active than the remaining 3 members of Team 6. Kataro, don't go down there. What are you doing making trouble for? Squeak, squeak, Boss Kazama, Ichiro is challenging the Wild Boar King. As friends, of course we have to go and cheer him on. Challenge the Wild Boar King. Kaibata's explanation confused the three people. How did they come here to complete a mission and then challenge the Wild Boar King? This is very normal among animals. As the king of a species, one often has to face challenges from other species. Challenges between kings like this are the most exciting. Kaibata was extremely excited, as if he had been injected with chicken blood. The three looked at each other in bewilderment, wondering if Ichiro's behavior could be explained in the animals' minds like this: what would happen if I lost, or won? If they lose, it means their group will either be eaten or dispersed. If they are from the same tribe, they will merge into the winner's group. Of course, the losing king will either become a lone wolf or be bitten to death. I noticed one thing. Why did Ichiro become the king of our Team 6? Kazama asked the question in his mind. This was indeed a problem. They were led by a senior ninja, and Nobuko and Kazama were not easy to deal with. How did Ichiro become the king? Zaojian and Nobuko were silent. As expected, this guy Fengjian had a different brain. Is now the time to ask this? Kaibataro, who knows both humans and beasts, knew the reason. In the minds of animals, being tall and strong, young and energetic is the guarantee of being a king. To sum up, Ichiro is a qualified king. Compared with Nobuko and Kazama, Ichiro is too thin, and Mr. Zayama is too old. He didn't dare to say the rest because Kaibataro sensitively noticed that the three people's faces did not look good. Small. Old. Come on, Ichiro, kill this big fat pig. Nobuko spoke again to cheer Ichiro up. Ichiro, don't waste your strength. Have you forgotten all the physical skills you learned? Turn sideways to unload the force, and then hit back with force. Fengjian also gritted his teeth. What's with that look, you fat pig? I'm so strong, how can I be inferior to Ichiro? Ichiro had persisted for so long that he was actually close to exhaustion, but his temper from childhood did not allow him to give in. And Kazama's voice just happened to remind him at this time. Yes, I am a human, why should I compete with a pig in strength? I have already stopped it, the next thing I should do is to knock the pig down. I figured it out. After years of practicing physical skills, my body was faster than my brain at this time, and I reacted. The iron rod between the wild boar's teeth and mouth slowly rotated, forcing the wild boar to rotate with it. But the wild boar's neck can only rotate a few degrees. Gradually, after reaching the limit, the front half of the wild boar's body gradually lost its strength. Ichiro seized the opportunity and suddenly increased the rotation force, driving the wild boar's body, flipping it over, and at the same time freeing his own body. The wild boar fell to the ground. In Ichiro's mind, it was a good time to kill the wild boar while it was still weak. He would not show mercy to his enemies. The iron rod in his hand had been deformed. Although he felt bad, he could not care less now. He raised the iron rod and was about to perform a brutal pig-killing scene. The wild boar that fell to the ground was not injured, it was just knocked over by Ichiro's cleverness, and after a few flutters, it stood up again. While fighting Ichiro with an iron rod, Ichiro had to retreat for a while. The powerful impact of the giant wild boar could not be stopped when he was not prepared. Fortunately, the wild boar had no intention of running away. After failing to hit Ichiro, it rushed out a long distance, then turned back and tried to hit Ichiro again. Ichiro, be careful. Just as Kazama saw, the wild boar had space to accelerate and the impact force was even greater than last time. Ichiro must not be hit this time, otherwise he would be either dead or injured. Ichiro was on high alert, but had no good idea. Seeing that the wild boar was about to approach him, Ichiro made a bold move. Since the wild boar can't be stopped from bumping around like this, let him not hit me. Wherever he can't hit me, naturally. The flexibility that Iron's ninja training had acquired over the years was fully displayed here. While dodging the wild boar, he stepped back, turned around, jumped up, and threw his whole body onto the boar's back, firmly grasping the bristles. What the hell? Fengjian was stunned. Nobuko and Zayama were also shocked. Is it possible to play like this? The wild boar couldn't bear it anymore, and rushed around with Ichiro on its back, trying to throw Ichiro off. How could Ichiro do what the wild boar wanted? He not only firmly grasped the bristles, but also used his chakra to stick to the wild boar like a dogskin plaster. No matter how the wild boar struggled, Ichiro just couldn't get off. Ichiro, what do you mean by that? Are you trying to tame a mount? After watching the wild boar struggling for a long time, the wild boar was tired, Ichiro was tired, and everyone watching was tired. Feng Jian muttered to himself, and then woke up. Looking at the wild boar below, which was still trying to throw Ichiro off even though it was exhausted and panting, Feng Jian's eyes became brighter and brighter. Morning sensei, can ninjas have mounts? Ah! Bai Yun was stunned by the question in the morning, then he reacted and looked at Ichiro fiercely. You want to? What do you think? It seems impossible for Ichiro to be as resourceful as other ninjas. In this case, why not let him face the enemy head-on? Just like a samurai general, fighting head-on, what do you think? Feng Jian touched his chin with a smile on his face. In the world of ninja, playing the ancient cavalry charge is really exciting. Zhao Jian was speechless. He was a jonin, not an encyclopedia. How could he know if it would work? There was no record in the book, and there was no precedent in Konoha. Judging from experience alone, it seemed that it was not suitable for ninjas. A head-on charge may seem powerful, but how do you deal with a large-scale ninjutsu? Ichiro is not a real warrior, he is also a ninja. If the opponent uses ninjutsu, he can also do it. Moreover, Earth Escape is the most defensive ninjutsu. Although the wild boar mount is a bit ugly, it can just help Ichiro's mobility. I reserve my opinion on this. Let's take a look at it first. Even if it can't be used as a mount, it can be used as a spirit beast. What are you talking about? Can I join in your conversation? Zinza didn't understand what they were saying, so she was curious and reminded them. We're going to have another hog rider teammate soon. Are you happy? Horse rider? Who, Ichiro? Nobuko obviously didn't like this possible member. I have to say that the giant wild boar's physical strength is really great. After struggling with Ichiro for more than 3 hours, it has now completely exhausted its physical strength and is lying on the ground groaning. As usual, the all-purpose translator Kai Batter came on the scene, and after a lot of threats and inducements, the giant wild boar's head, which was not small in size but had a small brain capacity, soon became confused and signed the summoning beast contract in a daze. The wild boar knight was born, but little did they know that Konoha's ninja beast assault force would begin from this moment. And the group of wild boars, because they are all descendants of giant wild boars, or subordinates, have become members of the summoned beasts. In other words, Ichiro's unintentional action successfully gathered a group of summoned beasts, and the harvest was huge. The only drawback is that there are no awakened chakras in the wild boar group, so it is a long way to go to cultivate an excellent group of summoned beasts. Chapter 96. Afterwards, the huge wild boar turned from an enemy into a comrade, which made the 3 people in the 6th class look at each other in bewilderment, not knowing what to do. Fortunately, the mission should be completed. But Zinza stayed away from Ichiro because Ichiro was covered with mud and pig feces, and the smell was so strong that it drove people away. Fortunately, this mountain stream was very long, and the water bubbles upstream were relatively small, so they had not been eaten by the wild boars. After cleaning for an hour, his body was soaked white, and he reluctantly got Zinza's consent to come out of the water. It's true that we have a contract, but we can't leave this herd of wild boars here. What if they cause trouble to the village again? They are still ordinary wild beasts and cannot be restricted. Feng Jian asked. This is a big problem. Since we have contracted the spiritual beast tribe, we have to find a good gathering place for them. If we leave them alone, believe it or not, the herd of wild boars will collapse tomorrow. Wild beasts with little wisdom always put eating first, and they don't care whether you have a contract or not. The giant wild boar's IQ doesn't seem to be high. After all, it can be seen from the battle just now that it has a lot of subordinates, but apart from summoning subordinates to boost its momentum at the beginning, the group of subordinates behind it didn't help at all, and blocked its space for activities. It has no command ability at all. If there is no other choice, we can only take them back. The forests around Konoha are large enough for these wild boars to live and inhabit. The key is how to take them back. We can't just rush back. Kazama continued to ask soul-searching questions. It seemed that this was the only way, and everyone looked at Ichiro with unfriendly eyes. Ichiro didn't care, and brushed the giant boar's hair with a smile. After all, they would be together for a long time in the future, and it would not be good to be so dirty, and Kataro didn't agree to let a partner join the team without taking a bath. It's the only way. As a teacher, Zaojian had the right to speak at this time, but he did not blame Ichiro for his extraordinary behavior. In his opinion, Ichiro, who had always followed the rules, had his own choice and his own thoughts. As a teacher, he should just support him. As for driving pigs, there was nothing a ninja couldn't do. D-level tasks, digging the ground, carrying manure, and picking up garbage were all done. Is it difficult to drive pigs? Anyway, it was definitely not him, a jonin, who was embarrassed. You guys go ahead, I have some personal matters to take care of. Seeing that he couldn't escape the treatment of being driven away like a pig, Fengji undecisively changed his mind. What's the matter? Oh, it's just a personal matter. You don't have to wait for me. I'll go back to the village by myself after I'm done. Without waiting for further explanation, Fengjian wanted to use the teleportation technique to run away. Private business, it just so happens that I have some private business too, let's go together. Nobuko reacted quickly and immediately agreed. Zaojian looked at the two students who wanted to run away and lectured them unhappily. Do you have any private business that needs to be settled outside of Konoha village? Do you want to defect or deliver intelligence? Think carefully and answer. Zaojian's words were a bit unethical, and he was trying to put a big hat on them. Defecting and delivering intelligence, can these two genin handle such things? This was not going to save face for Kazama and Nobuko, and ruthlessly exposed the two people's plan to escape. Okay, I'll be honest. I heard that there's a bird called the rock eagle in the land of Earth. It flies very fast and high and is large in size. It's the king of the sky. I want to look for it nearby to see if there's one. Kazama didn't even bother to write a draft and just spoke nonsense. Hehe, you can't even find an excuse. You said that it's the land of Earth, and this is the land of fire. Where can we find the rock eagle you mentioned? Zaojian exposed them mercilessly. It seems that he is not going to settle the matter peacefully today. There are 3 people in Team 6. He is a jonin, so he only needs to lead the team. If these 2 cunning students run away, Ichiro will be the only one left to drive the pigs. Of course, Ichiro will not have any objection, but Zaojian just can't stand Kazama and Nobuko bullying honest people, and he will stop the 2 old 6 today. Shilin village is close to the land of Earth, where the mountains are high and the forests are dense, there are many cliffs, and the vegetation is lush, so there should be a lot of wild animals. In other words, this is actually the most suitable environment for rock eagles to live. After all, there is enough food. Since the living environment is suitable and the food is sufficient, why can't there be rock eagles? The rock eagles have a very wide hunting range, so it is not impossible for them to fly here. Feng Jian tried his best to argue, and the more he spoke, the more fluent he became, and even he himself suspected that there might be rock eagles here. What you said is true. Zhao Jian unconsciously glanced at the surrounding mountains and hills. In such an environment, it is true that rock eagles could exist. Well, I'm also curious about the rock eagle you mentioned. I think your suggestion about psychic beasts a few days ago is very correct. If there really are rock eagles here, it's not impossible to raise a few. Let's look for them together. Feng Jian wanted to slap himself twice. This broken mouth chattered all day long, and today he was trapped. He couldn't escape, and he was given an extra task. Who could he go to for justice? The terrain of Shilin village is characterized by high mountains and dense forests. The speed of a ninja is naturally not comparable to that of the villagers. Now the search range of Team 6 has gone beyond the hunting range of Shilin village. It has been uninhabited for a long time, so it is reasonable to say that this place is a primeval forest. The wild boar herd that Ichiro had been thinking about was left behind in the mountain stream. It was already agreed that the herd would not be taken back, because even if they were taken back, they would not be of much help to Ichiro, because they were completely wild beasts, and none of them had awakened chakra to become ninja beasts. When the time came, the giant wild boars could be summoned directly to the vicinity of Konoha, and then high-quality wild boars near Konoha could be collected to enrich the wild boar herd. In this way, not only would they not have to drive the pigs away, but they could also collect some wild boars that might have awakened chakra, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. It's up to you, Ichiro. The group stopped. This place was relatively spacious, at least there weren't so many branches and vines entangled. Looking up, you could see the sky. It was a good place to rest. Kazama meant that Ichiro should sense if there was any chakra reaction nearby. If there is a reaction, it means that there are ninja beasts nearby, and Kazama's plan to collect summoned beasts can be implemented. Don't say that there are too many contracts and ordinary summoned beasts are useless. Kazama really didn't plan to make a contract himself. He planned to catch them, bring them back to Konoha, and develop the summoned beast sales business. This is what Kazama planned, and it will be the main livelihood of Team 6 in the future. With the strength of Team 6, becoming a chunin is not a problem, but as for jonin, that requires a vast amount of resources, and money is not enough. In his 3 years as a genin, Kazama didn't make much money, and every time he managed to save some, he would always spend it on something or other. Why do many ninjas live a miserable life after retirement? It is because ninjas do not make a living and rely entirely on commissions from missions. This is not okay. There is no pension insurance or retirement funds in this world. Will they be left with nothing like those retired ninjas when they get old? No, absolutely not. Kazama is a modern man. It is a basic concept to plan ahead. While he is young, he should quickly build a long-term career and save money to buy equipment, resources, ninjutsu, and save money for retirement. All these require money. Chapter 97. Hunting birds. The mountains are high and the forests are dense. The field of vision is only a few meters in front of you. This shows the importance of perception. Ichiro's perception technique is to sense whether there are spirit beasts around that can be contracted. Fengjian, on the other hand, just sits cross-legged and lets go of his perception to the greatest extent. Water escape technique. Rain watching technique. Earth escape. Ground touching technique. Kazama used his most relied upon perception ninjutsu in turn. The reason why he sat cross-legged was because Kazama in this state had the best perception and was most focused. Under the perception technique of observing rain, with Fengjian as the center of the circle, the entire forest was shrouded in water vapor. The heaviest water vapor was found in the bodies of various animals, followed by plants, and finally the air. The entire forest, like a landscape painting drawn with different shades of ink, appeared in Fengjian's mind. The ground touching technique is the simplest and the most complicated, because it is the vibration sensed by the ground. Therefore, there is no complete picture formed in the mind, but it is like rain hitting the water surface, with continuous vibrations occurring and then spreading. The raindrops are the source of the vibration. Because of the constant switching of the 3 perception techniques, the remaining impressions in the brain continue to blend, gradually forming a complete picture, just like a black and white TV, with vivid pictures, complete sounds, and even quite sophisticated peripherals, making people feel as if they are in the scene. Fengjian didn't know what Ichiro's perception was like, but his perception skills, when combined, were a black and white version of a 3D map. Fengjian suddenly had an impulse that he should combine his perception skills to form a unique picture perception skill. If he added picture sharing, wouldn't this be a full map radar detection? Flutter, flutter, flutter. There were the sounds of flapping wings and the friction of disturbed air. The water viewing technique only showed that a mass of water was approaching rapidly at a very fast speed. If Fengjian's perception technique had not covered this area, it would have been almost impossible to capture this trace. What is that? Fengjian suddenly opened his eyes. In his perception, he saw something approaching very quickly, at a speed so fast that his perception could only catch a trace. Fengjian had to interrupt his perception, open his eyes and alert everyone. What? What did you sense? He was most alert in the morning, or rather, after many years of ninja career, alertness had become his instinctive reaction. With Kazama's reminder, he immediately put his guard on full alert, guarding against everything around him. Left. Ichiro suddenly spoke, and the long stick in his hand suddenly swept to the left. Halfway through the sweep, in the eyes of the other 3, a black bird hit Ichiro's iron stick at lightning speed. The speed was so fast that the 3 could not tell what kind of bird it was. They intelligently judged that it was a bird larger than a fist, and then it hit Ichiro's iron stick like a stupid roe deer. Cry. The painful bird cry was accompanied by the sound of falling dead leaves on the ground. 3 wolves, go! The 3 wolves from the 5 small ones had been trained for so long that they flew forward in an instant. The rugged forest seemed to be no hindrance to them. After turning around and wandering for a few times, they found the bird that had suffered a serious plane crash in the pile of fallen leaves. What is this? Oh, damn, it's pretty fierce. Fengjian was about to take action, but before he could touch it, he was pecked, and a piece of skin was directly lost, and blood was visible. Holding the hand that was kissed by the strange bird, Fengjian honestly did not approach, but looked at the 3 wolves. One wolf stretched out a claw and pressed the bird to the ground, with its legs spread out. Look at the sharp claws, the sharp eyes, the scimitar beak, it's a raptor, definitely a raptor. Feng Jian vowed. If it wasn't a raptor, it wouldn't be so aggressive. It gave Feng Jian the first blood when they met. Feng Jian had only seen the description of what a rock eagle looked like in a book, but all eagles in the world look similar, so he wasn't sure what species the one in front of him was. Is this the rock eagle you mentioned? Nobuko wanted to go forward, but was afraid of being teased like Kazama, so she watched from a distance. It's an eagle, maybe it's a rock eagle? There's no nest around here, so I don't know. However, Ichiro, your technique is pretty good. You can even hit a bird with your eyes closed. Feng Jian reacted and realized that there was nothing much to study about the bird, but Ichiro's current state was quite surprising. Hehe, the good thing about chakra sensing is that it can sense chakra. I actually sensed his chakra. His speed was too fast and turning was difficult. I just held the iron rod and waited for him to hit me. Ichiro smiled and looked very happy. The others all gave a thumbs up. Ichiro said it simply, but everyone present was good at using weapons. It was one thing to sense it, and it was another to pass the iron rod accurately. Moreover, it was a move with prediction. Timing, accuracy, and perception were all indispensable. This was Ichiro. The iron rod was like his brother. After he got it 3 years ago, he was inseparable from it every day. There is a saying in ancient martial arts that weapons are extensions of hands and feet. Ichiro was the best interpretation of this. What should we do? The 3 wolves are almost killing the bird, Zinzi interrupted. Seeing that no one was caring, the bird was still ferocious. The 3 wolves were not going to pamper it. They kept catching it and it was almost becoming a bald bird. Kataro, Kyotaro, where have you been? Come out and help. Class 5 and Class 1 just followed Class 6 closely, never more than 10 steps away. It was strange that Kyotaro didn't come to join in the fun today. I'm not going. You kill the bird and drink the soup, and then I'll come over. Kaibatare's voice came from the tree behind. What's your attitude? Do you have a grudge against him? No, this bird was just shot, there's no reason to have a grudge against him. I've seen his kind before. I won't go down if this bird teacher wants to eat us. Oh, the people under the tree showed expressions of sudden realization. This is true. Another piece of black material about Kaibataro has been added. Don't worry. Now he's injured and can't fly. Come and help and see if he's worth saving. If he is, we'll be friends from now on. If not, you'll have soup tonight. It's not worth it. Just drink soup tonight. Kaibatar showed no intention of getting closer. Are you sure? Let me tell you, if we become brothers in the future, he might be able to take you flying. If you don't like him now, he might not take you out to play in the future. Don't save it. This bird looks bad and it even nagged you. It's best to eat its soup. If you want to find a bird, go to the cliff. The birds there, no matter how big they are all very capable of fighting. Kaibataro is a know-it-all in the forest, or he has been a representative of the weak since childhood and is very familiar with various predatory animals. Kaibataro, who lives in a tree, is actually not very afraid of wild animals on the ground. What he is afraid of are pythons and large carnivorous birds in the sky. Well, it's not difficult for you. You lead us to find a bird that can be your friend. I will make soup for you with this bird, the kind that you can drink by yourself. Make a deal. Others, they were too tired to complain about the fact that Kazama ordered his summoning beast around. Chapter 98. Peregrine Falcon. After an unfair deal, Kaibataro became the leader. It is said that the one who knows the enemy best is always the enemy's opponent. Kaibataro had suffered a great loss from this carnivorous bird, so he naturally knew the habits of this bird very well. Look, that's where those slugs like to build their nests. Kaibataro pointed to the cliff that was hundreds of meters high and almost vertical to the ground, with a sly smile on his face. In his mind, his master would either ignore it or do whatever he wanted to get it. Show him the way today, and this group of slugs will be in trouble. You like to bully people? No, you like to bully squirrels, right? I'll find you a stronger opponent. No matter how good you are at fighting, can you beat a ninja? He, a devil's horn grew on Kaibatare's head. Are you sure? Feng Jian also clicked his tongue. The cliff was hundreds of meters high, and if he was not strong enough, he would have given up. Sure. The cliff holes, protrusions, and places where plants take root on the cliffs are most suitable for building nests. Kaibatter explained it very clearly, and it was obvious that he had really studied this kind of bird. Ichiro, you watch me from below to prevent any accidents. I'll go up. Kazama glanced at his companions and decided to go up by himself. Nobuko didn't have the earth escape skill and she was a girl, so she passed. Ichiro was too strong, so rock climbing was not friendly to him. Morning, teacher? Forget it, he couldn't be ordered around. He checked his equipment and threw away all unnecessary weights. In fact, there was nothing to throw away. Feng Jian's equipment was all in the large and small scrolls on his body. His wrists were where the sniper crossbow and compound bow were hidden, so they would not affect Feng Jian's movements. Rock climbing, I had tried it in Konoha to keep fit, but it was all on familiar terrain. This cliff had no protection at all, and it was an unfamiliar environment. Kazama planned to use the simplest and slowest method, which would be safer. Spotting the nearest rock protrusion, Feng Jian formed seals with his hands: earth escape, elevator. Among the earth escape techniques that Feng Jian knew, this move had almost no offensive or defensive effects, but it was used the most frequently. This ninjutsu that changed the terrain in a small area was really useful when used as an auxiliary. He slapped his palms on the cliff wall, and the cliff wall seemed to come alive, with protrusions like steps growing out, slanting against the cliff wall. As long as people leaned sideways, they could walk up the cliff wall step by step, which was safe and saved energy. See? The biggest difference between you and Feng Jian is not your talent, but the thinking you can do when facing a complex external environment. If it were you, your biggest possibility would be to stand on the cliff and move up step by step. But Feng Jian did take this approach. Teacher, we both use chakra, so Kazama's method is not better than ours, right? Nobuko was not convinced. Her inferiority complex had long disappeared with the improvement of her strength. In terms of personality, he was the strongest one in Team 6. He was naturally not convinced when Kazama was praised so much in the morning. This is the difference between you two, the angles you think about problems. You see, this is a high cliff, and it's a completely unfamiliar environment. Even if you can use chakra to walk on the cliff, but such a cliff has existed for who knows how long, and the surface has long been eroded by wind and rain. It is possible that you will miss a step at any time due to the weathering of the cliff. If you fall down, do you have any way to deal with it? In an unfamiliar environment, it means that the danger here is unknown. You who use chakra to step on the cliff may seem safe, but in fact it also limits your ability to perform. If someone launches an attack from the top of the cliff at this time, what will you do? What if someone uses large-scale ninjutsu to launch a carpet bombing? Zhao Jian took this opportunity to impart his years of battlefield experience. Look at Feng Jian again. He has set up the route in advance. Those stairs can be stood on by even an ordinary person. He has created a lot of space for himself to move around. He doesn't have to worry about his feet. Even when facing an attack, he doesn't have to resist it head-on. He has a certain amount of space to dodge. And because it's effortless, his energy can be focused on other places, and he won't lose sight of one thing while focusing on another. Feng Jian has always said that he should do things the way of the ninja, which is true, but today, I want to teach you another sentence. Don't let the ninja's thinking restrict yourself. Thinking from a few more angles can lead to different answers and more unexpected results. Hi, the two were half believing and half doubting, unable to fully understand, but they did not refute it, but kept it in their hearts, thinking silently. They would remember every word of the morning's instructions in their hearts. Gradually, many Z-shaped stairs appeared on the cliff, which were just enough for one person to wind up. Feng Jian could drink some water from time to time and sit down to look at the scenery from the top. See? This is the third benefit. You can rest anytime and anywhere and maintain your condition. If you step on it directly, you need to pay attention to the situation under your feet at all times. Your chakra will be consumed. How long can you last on such a large rock wall? Yes. Feng Jian looked for several places where bird nests might be found. He did find some signs of bird life, even bird nests, but there were only 3 or 2 unknown bird eggs. Feng Jian was very upset because he could not tell what the eggs were. He had no choice but to continue climbing. For several hours, Feng Jian stayed on the cliff without coming down. Fortunately, as long as the stairs were built, they would always exist without the need for earth escape to remove them. Otherwise, Feng Jian might not be able to hold on. Birds have been returning to the cliffs one after another, but Feng Jian's search is still small compared to the cliffs, and he has not yet found any birds returning to their nests in the places he has checked. But Feng Jian has made a new discovery. This is a huge rock cave that is more than 1 meter high, narrow at the top and wide at the bottom, and only about 1 meter deep. In this recessed space, there is a huge bird's nest that almost fills the entire space. There are sounds coming from the bird's nest. It was not until Feng Jian approached and curiously stretched his head that he saw that 2 of the 5 eggs had already hatched. The 2 chicks that made the sound were the ones that had not yet opened their eyes. They were bald and barely recognizable as birds. They closed their eyes and struggled in the rough nest. They looked like they were born only 1 or 2 days ago. There was no mother or male bird in the nest, which was a rare thing. Normally, they would not leave the nest for a long time during the incubation period. He reached out to feel the temperature of the bird's nest. It was still warm. It seemed that the bird had not been away from the nest for long. Feng Jian kept climbing up and didn't notice it. Or maybe Feng Jian was getting closer and closer to the bird's nest, making the big bird feel dangerous, so it was scared and flew away. Whatever the case, there was no big bird in the bird's nest now, so Feng Jian could take the opportunity to watch it to his heart's content. A long cry that pierced through space suddenly resounded in Feng Jian's ears. Feng Jian reacted instantly. Oh no, the big bird is back. Sure enough, Kazama's approach to the bird's nest made the big bird even more angry, and it swooped down on Kazama like an arrow from a bow. Kazama had open-toed gloves on his hands, which were standard equipment for mid-level and upper-level ninjas. Although Kazama was not at that level yet, he could still prepare it himself. Chapter 99. With his back against the cliff and the narrow stairs, Feng Jian could not move too much. He could only cover his hands with chakra and hold them in front of him to block the bird's swoop. Because he was pecked once, Feng Jian learned his lesson this time. He covered his hands with chakra to reduce the damage, not to mention the protection of gloves and sleeves. The big bird swooped down and hit Feng Jian's hands first. The imagined feeling of a heavy object hitting his hands did not appear. The weight of this big bird was not as heavy as imagined. Because of the hands blocking it, the big bird could not directly attack Feng Jian's body, but kept attacking the hands and arms that blocked it. Because of the defense, he could feel the pain, but it was not unbearable. Moreover, the big bird's wings were about 1 or 2 meters wide. The constant flapping gave Feng Jian's hands a greater chance to grab. After enduring a few peckings from the bird's beak, he finally grabbed one of the big bird's wings. With its wings caught, the big bird immediately lost its balance and could only flap its wings continuously. The chaotic attack allowed Feng Jian to grab another leg. It was over. The big bird completely lost its freedom. With the experience of catching chickens in the previous life, he took out a thin rope and tied up the wings and claws of the big bird separately. The bird, which was 1 or 2 meters wide, was actually not much bigger than a chicken. Now its wings and legs were tied up, and it was completely a chicken. Feng Jian chuckled and threw the big bird into the bird's nest and gave it some dried meat. Today, time is tight and the task is heavy. He can't delay here. This bird is obviously just an ordinary beast level. He is not Feng Jian's main target. Under the angry eyes of the big bird, Feng Jian turned around and continued to climb up. Now he could see that there seemed to be hidden rules on this cliff. The higher the bird's nest, the stronger it was. Looking at the bird that was just subdued, although it was also fierce, its combat power was limited. It could only deal with squirrels and rabbits. As it went up, near dusk, Feng Jian even saw a huge bird that was no less than 3 wolves. With such a body size, even without chakra, it could easily deal with Kai Bataro and his ilk. This was Feng Jian's real goal. This time, Feng Jian did not search one bird's nest after another. After observing just now, he had a rough target. Feng Jian directly extended to the target. As Feng Jian approached, the natives on the cliff also discovered Feng Jian, the outsider. The birdsong, some sharp, some sad, filled the air. There was no doubt that Feng Jian had become the public enemy of the birds. Fortunately, the birds were just staring at Feng Jian and did not organize an attack. We're not far from the top of the cliff. Let's go up first. It's more convenient to observe from the top of the cliff. We should have climbed to the top directly early in the morning. We wasted too much time in the middle and lower parts. Feng Jian complained about his mistake. One hand finally grabbed the top of the cliff, and Feng Jian almost cried with joy. Such a high cliff, looking down, makes people dizzy. In the second half, Feng Jian did not dare to look down, for fear that he would lose control and fall down. Fortunately, it was finally the end. He struggled to get to the top of the cliff, and the moment he looked up, he blurted out, "Fuck, what a big bird." Feng Jian's eyes were as sharp as a knife, staring at Feng Jian, the uninvited guest. The giant bird, which was squatting in the bird's nest as big as a swimming pool, stood up suddenly because of Feng Jian's uninvited visit. It was more than 2 meters tall and exuded a terrifying hostility. It seemed that it was going to tear Feng Jian to pieces in the next moment. Sorry, I didn't mean to disturb brother bird. This cliff is really too high. I don't dare to go down. Can you give me a place to stay and recover my strength?" Feng Jian, who held the rock wall and leaned out half of his body, asked carefully. This is not a random question. A bird this big is big enough to kill a group of spiritual beasts in seconds. How could it be an ordinary bird? Feng Jian tried to communicate. If they can communicate, it means they have wisdom, and there will be a chance, right? If they can't communicate, then it will be troublesome. Feng Jian is in such an awkward place now. There is no room to hide. He probably can't win if he fights hard. He can only buy some time. He should have time to launch the earth escape. Sure enough, as Kazama spoke, a humane color flashed in Odori's eyes. Although the first one remained unchanged, at least he stood up with pressure and sat back down. Did this mean that he understood? Thank you, bird brother. I have nothing to say. Bird brother is so righteous. Following the flattery, Feng Jian climbed up from the edge of the cliff and lay on the edge to recover his strength. He rolled his eyes, took out the scroll, and unsealed the seal. A huge food box appeared in front of him, which contained various Chinese delicacies prepared by Feng Jian. These were all made on a daily basis. If they could not be eaten, or if there were extra prepared, they would be sealed with the seal to maintain the quality. When they were hungry, they could have another meal. So now when Feng Jian cooks, he does not consider whether he can finish the food or not. He makes as much as he has the ingredients. Anyway, it will be consumed sooner or later. It must be said that the powerful seal of Juju Zi in the hands of others is a large warehouse here in Fengjian, which has both sterilization and antiseptic effects. What you put in is what you take out. For example, now, there are various sweet and salty snacks in the food box. This kind of thing is not eaten often. It can be eaten for a long time after making it once. It is just right to use it to replenish physical strength. After all, this is Bird Brother's place. If you make a fire, it is probably not allowed. Brother Bird, do you want some? Feng Jian threw a piece into his mouth and said to the big bird who was staring at him. The big bird remained unmoved, but 3 small voices were heard. 3 bird heads appeared behind the big bird, looking at Feng Jian curiously. Feng Jian was frozen. What was going on? Daniao was also taking care of the child? Did he come in here to be the food? No wonder Daniao was not angry. Damn, why would he be angry about the food that was delivered to his door? Feng Jian felt a chill in his forehead. Do you guys want to eat something? No, you have to save yourself. No doubt, feed the bird brothers first. When they are full, they don't need to eat anymore, and you will be safe. The snacks in the food box were enough for 3 or 4 people to have a full meal. 3 2-foot-tall little birds, which were carved out of the same mold as the big bird, staggered out and became Feng Jian's diners. One person had to feed 3 mouths. Feng Jian was very busy, and was even pecked once because of his slow movements. Feng Jian didn't care anymore, and used the technique of throwing shuriken, and directly scattered flowers, and you guys can grab them if you have the guts. The little birds were not afraid either. If you dare to throw, I dare to catch, and after using it, they swallowed it directly. There were about 100 snacks, enough for 3 adults, and the 3 baby birds were fully fed. They returned to the nest with a more shaky and slower pace than when they came. Brother Bird, can I send a message to my friend at the bottom of the cliff? He didn't get a reply, but just stared at Feng Jian, which made Feng Jian feel creepy. Don't worry about anything, just throw a note down, okay? He picked up a stone, tied the written note to it, and gestured to throw it down the cliff. The big bird neither agreed nor objected, so Feng Jian assumed that it agreed and threw it down directly. It was not dark yet, so they should be able to see it. Feng Jian has already decided that he must find a way to contract this big bird into his summoning beast. If he missed this opportunity, he didn't know when he would have such luck again. Chapter 100 Team 6 waited anxiously for several hours at the foot of the cliff, watching Kazama go straight to the top of the cliff, but Kazama disappeared in the blink of an eye and there was no news of him. Kazama has been gone for so long? Why hasn't he come back yet? Is he in trouble? The only thing Nobuko could think of was that he was in trouble, otherwise he wouldn't have disappeared for so long for no reason. I wasn't too worried in the morning, because Wu Xiao was still at the bottom of the cliff. If they encountered a battle, Wu Xiao would be summoned. If Feng Jian died, the summoning contract would also react. None of these happened, which could only mean one thing: Feng Jian was not in danger, but was held up by something. Don't talk nonsense. Sometimes no news is good news. We just need to wait quietly. After saying that, he glanced at Wu Xiao. He didn't have much confidence in what he said. Several people built a bonfire at the bottom of the cliff and roasted some food. With the presence of the great Jonin in the morning, although the forest was dangerous, it did not pose a threat to the people of Team 6. It would only provide them with more food. Boom, night falls, the forest gives people a sense of tranquility, and various strange noises will be heard, adding a little embellishment to the impermanent night. But today's embellishment is a bit deceptive. When it was the size of a fist, it fell from a cliff hundreds of meters high. The weight plus the height would definitely kill someone. Ichiro, who had his back to the cliff, was startled by the loud noise and thought that a terrible creature appeared behind him. He jumped forward, passing Zinzi and Zayajian on his left and right. This was his battlefield experience. When attacked from behind, the best response was not to turn around immediately, but to leave the attack range. Just now, he jumped out instantly, his body instinctively activated the instant body technique and kicked the ground with his legs, and he jumped out more than 10 meters. It can be imagined that Ichiro was really scared. Ichiro was not good at the instant body technique, and speed has always been his weakness. This time he used it inexplicably because for him, the instant body technique is the fastest way to escape from danger, so he had such a subconscious reaction. Although Nobuko and Zayama did not overreact like Ichiro, as a Jonin, they still reacted in an instant. With a touch of their backs, they had their long swords in their hands. With the long swords in their hands, they had the courage to fight anyone. Nobuko also looked at the direction of the loud noise with a look of astonishment. His left hand stretched to his waist, ready to draw his sword at any time, and his right hand guarded his chest, ready to advance or retreat. What? I don't know. Let's take a look first and don't act rashly. It doesn't seem to be a living creature. Ichiro, who had already reacted, sensed it out of habit and said something completely different. Not a living creature. Zinzi and Zayajian were stunned, then they reacted and went forward to check. The fist-sized stone was sunk deep into the pit and had broken into 3 pieces. The note tied to it was also damaged, but fortunately it could still be pieced together and the handwriting could be clearly seen. After the 3 of them finished reading, there was silence in the morning, and Zinzi burst into curse. That means Feng Jian is going to seduce the summoning beast. We have to wait for him at the bottom of the cliff like fools, and we have to be scared. Damn Feng Jian, just wait, when you come back, I will make you pay. Zinzi's sharp roar spread throughout the bottom of the cliff, stirring up a roar of beasts and the chirping of insects. Feng Jian, who was on the top of the cliff, was enjoying the wonderful sight of reaching out to touch the moon. Unfortunately, Feng Jian was a vulgar person and could not appreciate such a scene. Instead, he was made miserable by the night wind on the top of the cliff. It was not that cold that day, and he could stand a little wind. However, it was like a super powerful electric fan blowing on his head for half the night. Feng Jian's whole body was numb and he was at risk of having a stroke. No, if this wind continues, I won't know when I'll become a disabled person with a crooked mouth and squinting eyes. I must find a way to save myself. Feng Jian said to himself. Earth escape, elevator. A 3-foot-high earth wall was built to barely block the strong wind, and I was finally able to calm down. Just as I was half asleep and half awake, I felt something approaching, followed by the sound of the earth wall collapsing, and a familiar strong wind poured into my body. Who is this? Can't I sleep? Feng Jian was furious. He opened his eyes and wanted to curse. But he saw the big bird looking at Feng Jian with burning eyes. There was no need to look for him. The earth wall was pushed by the bird brother. Brother bird, the human body is different from the bird's body. We can't be exposed to the wind for a long time. Please understand. Not getting a reply, Feng Jian once again used the earth to build a wall. Before he could lie down, the big bird pecked him to pieces. Brother bird, what do you want? Are you deliberately not letting me rest? Anyone whose sleep is repeatedly disrupted will be angry. The human-like look in the big bird's eyes changed from indifferent at the beginning to a little dangerous, which made Feng Jian feel a little cold. He didn't know whether it was because the wind was too strong at night or the big bird's eyes were too sharp. Brother bird, how about this, I stay in your bird's nest for one night. Li. The big bird's voice was full of rejection. Feng Jian could only sit down, but it was not a good idea to blow like this. He jumped up and gritted his teeth, thinking that at worst he would just be a mouse. Earth escape. Elevator technique. A pit more than one person high appeared on the top of the cliff, just enough for Feng Jian to lie in it, not blocking the wind from the big bird, but also allowing Feng Jian to avoid the wind. The only pity was that Feng Jian was buried before he died. After a tiring day and half a night, Feng Jian was very tired and fell asleep quickly after lying down. But he was not at peace after falling asleep. He had nightmares all night long. He either fell off a cliff, was drowned, or all kinds of monsters and ghosts took turns to torture Feng Jian. He was in a precarious situation and wanted to live and die for most of the night. Finally, under the sunlight, Feng Jian's face turned pale and he opened his eyes surrounded by dark circles. Shit, why did I have nightmares all night? The two bird brothers sat side by side, squatting on Feng Jian's chest while eating fruits, and dozing off from time to time. Wake up, it's time to eat. As soon as the word eat was mentioned, the two bird brothers immediately opened their eyes and chirped at Feng Jian, but no one could understand. How about asking Kai Bataro to come up and translate? Oatori hasn't said a word so far, and he probably can't speak, so it'll be difficult to communicate. And I can't be too out of line, otherwise it'll easily cause misunderstandings. If Kai Bataro acts as an interpreter, it will make things a lot easier for both sides. Kazama clapped his hands on the ground, and the summoning technique was activated. Kai Bataro appeared in front of Kazama, holding a skewer of meat and looking confused. Hello, good morning, Kai Bataro. Kazama greeted. Hey, good morning, Kazama. Kai Bataro imitated Kazama's tone perfectly. Don't be a good student and don't imitate me. Feng Jian patted Kai Bataro on the head and then began to introduce himself. Kai Bataro was in a bad mood. He was originally a lower-level beast than carnivorous birds and had always been treated as food. He finally tricked Kazama once, but before he could even enjoy the bird meat soup, he was sent into the bird's nest by Kazama. You are a traitor. Kai Bataro's whole body was stiff, and he spoke in animal language to Kazama. Judging from his tone, his words were extremely dirty and messy.